All right, all right. Keys, we should be live right now. Let me see what's going on with the family. Need to know. Will D, what's good, family? Family, let me know real quick how my audio is. You know, I don't want to get all into the conversation and come to find out my audio ain't good. Yeah, Malachi, Bishop Bay, Brandy 619, hello universe. What up, y'all? Malika Smith, Shard 5, clear drawing. All right, I'm good. Everybody's saying I'm good. All right. Listen, man, I got a great guest tonight, man, a powerful young brother who's repping strong as far as Black empowerment, as far as, you know, self-confidence, as far as metaphysics, as far as health. The brother's doing a lot over there on the West Coast. My brother, 19 Keys. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Man, it's a blessing to be back here and sharing this space with you again, man. You know, at the beginning of this journey, at a new beginning of this journey, the journey never really begins. But as a continuation of the journey, as I found myself in New York City, you was the first brother, you know what I mean, that reached out initially about the Crowns to do an interview, and then it spread into the Shifters movement. So I appreciate you, brother.
Yo, man, I like where you took it with the Crowns, man. I seen it early and I was like, that's he brother got something right there. And I was doing the video, the Black Magic video, and that's when I kept hollering. I don't think you had it at first. When I called you, it was like you was out of stock or something, and I just kept harassing you, and the video got delayed, but I ended up getting the crown. And everybody, whenever I wore that in New York, everybody said, yo, were you red and blue? It's like, yo, because Red had knew about you. I was like, you heard about this dude? He was like, yeah, he's doing his thing on Instagram. But when they seen that crown in person, they was like, woo.
Different, huh?
It hit different in person. In facts, that's facts. So, yo, everybody, before we even start, y'all see the crown on his brother's head. Make sure y'all go support. Definitely got a crown of my own. Got to get one for my little son.
Yes,
but the brother, you can't, if you're a Black man or a Black woman in America, we should not go without that crown right there.
Absolutely.
Indeed. So before we start 19, oh, you like the last video with Red Pill? Yeah, that was hot. Yeah, the brother got the gold water. We're gonna touch on that a little later. All right, family. So before we start, let me get to these ads, family. Make sure you show support. How do I share? Yeah, show support. These are some magnificent Black businesses who got some magnificent products that you won't catch in mainstream media. So make sure you pay close attention, show support. And me and the brother will be right back. Matter of fact, let me because I'm not gonna play music today. So let me just first and foremost, I want y'all to make sure y'all go and support, get the Holy Ghost 2 album, myself at Cambatta. It's on top of the Google playlist right now. It's one of the recommended albums. So a lot of people must be streaming it. Make sure you go stream Holy Ghost 2, myself at Cambatta. All right. But besides that, the next video will be King of the Jungle. So stay tuned for that. We're going to have a casting call for that and everything. So just stay tuned for that, family. We coming real soon for that. But besides that, we got Kemetic yoga mats. And this is my sister, Lisa Brown Treasures. And these are the best yoga mats in the world right now, family. You want something that represents your frequency. So make sure you get those yoga mats. Besides that, sister, we got King Simon. He's the man with numerology. He just had the Delbert Blair conference, so y'all just missed that yesterday. Red and Blue Pill spoke at that. But make sure y'all holler at King Simon for numerology and also future events that the brother will be holding. My boy Riverside Tai Chi, he comes to the events that I host in New York. Also, he's doing his thing on my platform with his joint balance formula as well as his glucose support formula. So the people stay calling, stay asking about it, and he has return customers, which is a very good thing. If you have return customers, that's a very good thing. Support that brother right there. Also, Samsara, the brother got country trap tunes. You know, we invented the genre country. We invented a lot of genres that we make fun of. We are the creators of that. Support that brother. Parinja Rajadeep, they got the hair formula. They got the scalp formula. They got the skin stuff. Make sure you support the family right there with their natural products. All right. The information is on the screen and everybody's information will be in the description bar. Get into the show. My brother. Let's start out. Let me see what's going on in the chat room before we start. All right. Oh, y'all talking about ADOS. Yeah, that was the last show. Y'all got some ADOS in here though. I'm an ADOS representative in here. But listen, 19 Keys, man. I see you on Instagram. I like the spirituality and what you share with the family in terms of, as you say, tap it in terms of tuning into a frequency, in terms of shifting your paradigms and whatnot, my brother. In terms of your product, Gold Water, and I don't even know how much people, how important people know gold is or not. Maybe they think it's just a fashion thing or a materialistic thing, but they don't know that it's something that's literally in our body and something it's just a little deeper than that. Let's talk about frequencies real quick, my brother.
Sorry.
Why is it that now we live in a social media age, and I'm gonna relate metaphysics to current to what's going on in today's generation. So hopefully everybody can understand our metaphysical conversation better. When it comes to frequencies and we vibing on a certain frequency, and I'm on this high frequency, 19 Keys, I'm vibing, and I might go on social media, and somebody on a low frequency may throw me off my high frequency. But for some reason, it's hard for me with my high frequency to bring them up from a low high frequency to high frequency. So it seems like low frequency beings could get us to come to their level faster than we could get them to come to our level. So talk to me about why does it seem that way, if that's even the case, my brother?
Well, I mean, even going into basic science, you know, it's much harder with an uphill battle. There's a lot more force going up anytime than there is going down. If anybody ever took a hike, if you're going up the hill, it's much harder because you have gravity working with you when you're going down. To actually go slowly down is actually to build up your muscle if you're going down any hill. So a lot of people like to run when they go down a hill thinking they're doing something. That's not an actual workout. It would be to control yourself. So the goal is always, when a person is talking about frequencies, you're always talking about as well focus and distraction, right? Because when you look at distraction, you're talking about distraction, and you're talking about allowing someone to take you off track from where you currently are. So if you're in this high frequency of non-emotional thinking, of higher enlightenment, of selflessness, and then a person can pull you down to enviousness, jealousy, or hatred. All of these things are pulling down on your energy, right? So it's going to be a slower rise trying to get back up to where you was when you allowed things to pull you down. That's why when a person is in their higher self, you have to have continuous divine reminders that keep you there. So when we talk about the crowns themselves, you're talking about continuously having a divine reminder in people's environments.
Yes.
Because walk throughout the streets right now, I'm only going to see billboards that's pulling on my low frequencies, that's telling me to lust, telling me about egoistic things, having me compare and analysis myself between my life and someone else's life, having me observing the reality of low frequency. So now the word attention, right? When you give attention to something, it comes from the root word meaning to stretch out. So you're stretching out these low frequencies and you start to actually live within those things. But see, in order to be in your higher mind, you have to continuously pay rent. You know what I mean? And paying rent is,
yes.
It's like if I read a book, right? And this book, I mean, it has some of the deepest knowledge that I've ever encountered in my whole entire life. But then as soon as I'm done reading this enlightening book, I walk out into my environment. Now, my environment is nothing like the curation of the knowledge that I just observed. My environment is the complete polar opposite. So I have nothing reminding me to stay on track from the information that was just raising my frequencies. So now I'm distracted. At first, I was on course to be within my higher mind, to observe higher frequencies, to have more anomalies and synchronization with greater things within my life, to continuously produce abundantly. But the moment you get distracted, your energy is now producing another reality. So therefore, at first you was on course. So the goal is always, how do you stay focused, right? Because when one is focused and you don't allow anybody to pull on your energy, which is energy in motion. So if you can control your energy, you control your emotions. But when you allow somebody else to control how you feel, you allow them to control the frequency of what you produce, because your energy produces your reality. So it's concentration of passion that an individual is getting to, but concentration is the ability to focus for a prolonged period of time. So when a person tells you to study self, they're telling you to study the ability to be able to control yourself and the inherent ability of things that you react with and interact with, because you can get stuck and consistently be triggered by low frequency things. So you get stuck in that mode. So here I am, this high being, right? But if it's something that you haven't dealt with, even within your past, a person that knows you best know how to trigger you best, because they know what you haven't got over yet. So they might say something, call you a name. That's like a person that used to be fat. Here you on this high, you on this high consciousness, somebody calls you fat. That's somebody in your life, they pull you all the way back to the past, because they're triggering based off emotional energy of the past that you haven't completely got over. But the moment that you grow through it and you work through it and you eliminate that past feeling that you had to that connotation of that energy, then they can no longer control you and pull you down. So you have to check yourself to be like, how am I still allowing things to trigger me and control me, and allowing things to distract me from the observation that I actually want to produce? When you're talking about, you know, metaphysics, you're talking about observation, right? Because that's anytime somebody, they be like, Keys, I love what you do, man. I watched this video, blah, blah, blah. I say, thank you for your observation. Because you're continuously allowing me to produce the reality that I want to see, right? So the goal is what you observe is what you produce, and what you pay attention to is what you stretch out. So you have to figure out, how do I get to a place to where I'm constantly divine reminded of my higher self, and I curate my environment based off what I want to see, produce, hear, and be? Or have I even got past those things that I'm allowing to trigger me? Am I mad at the person that triggered me and brought me back to my past reactions? Or if I'm mad at myself because I didn't really outgrow that thing. I faked like I was selfless. I faked like I was here, but I really wasn't. Because a person that's in truly living within a higher mind, right? They won't be pulled down by lower inclinations. So that also goes to separating from your environment that's not conducive to your higher frequencies.
Now, observation. I keep hearing, you know, people on the internet saying observation, what we observe, we continue to create more of what we observe. I recently spoke with Seven Beaumont, and I talked to him about emotional reaction. So I'm going to kind of combine something I asked him with something I want to ask you. Is as far as observation, now me and you, 19 Keys, we could observe the same thing. We could observe, look at poverty. We could look at, let's say we're in New York and we're on 125th and Lenox Avenue. And I see, say the buildings are abandoned, and I say, yo, it's fucked up out here. Look at all these abandoned buildings, nigga. This Harlem shit this shit is fucked up. You look at that and you say, this is opportunity. Somebody here is going to get an amazing price on real estate, and in 15 years from now, they're going to own all of this shit and be on top of the food chain. So we both observed the same thing, but we had a different emotional reaction to it, Keys. So is it the observation within itself? Because I observe white supremacy, and I don't get mad or offended by it. I get inspired by it. So is it the observation, or is it the reaction, emotional reaction to the observation that creates our future reality?
I believe there's a bit of both of it, right? If you go to some indigenous cultures, they can tell you the position that the storm would take based on the way that the snails may move or something in the ground. You know what I mean? They'll be like, oh, the storm is coming from northeast because the snails have just moved this way, right? Now, they may not be able to scientifically tell you why that snail navigated. It was just something that they observed each and every time that a storm came. They say they may have noticed that the birds and the snails moved a certain way. They become great observers of nature and their reality and things that's connected around them. So let's say that if they don't see the snail, then in the absence of the observation of the snail, maybe they just see a trail there, right? Or maybe they don't see any, and it informs them of something else. So it's not just the observation, but the insights that you take from what you observe, right? So when I think about observation and I think about reaction is constantly reacting to a thing, right? So I always tell people, interact with opportunity. Don't react to success.
Okay.
acting is kind of like a past behavior recycling itself each and every time. I was in New Orleans the other day, not the other day, but a couple of weeks ago, rather. And a young man was walking across the street, and there was another black man. He was a black man. He's kind of erratic out of himself. And he walked up to us, and he asked me and another brother next to us. He was like, "Hey, y'all got a cigarette?" And we was like, "Nah, we ain't had one." I didn't know brother that was next to me at all as well. Two white girls walked right past him. They're smoking cigarettes, and they walked right past him, and he didn't ask them for nothing. So I said myself, I'm like, "Bruh, they smoking. Why don't you ask them?" I said loud so even they can hear. And he like, "Oh, they probably ain't got my kind. White people ain't got the menthols." I'm like, "Ain't that crazy?" So the brother next to me, he started talking. He didn't really look at me at first. He just started like, "Man, niggas is always doing that. Anytime I walk out the side, man, it's always a problem. It's always a." I said, "Wait a minute though, brother. You know what I'm talking about?" I said that you may see reality the when you walk outside is always issues or problems, but an individual like myself, all I see is opportunities and success. All I see is what I want to observe from reality. So you may be on your phone complaining, and I see a brother with a tool that he can utilize to execute, right? So a low observers observe low observations. High observers create higher observations. So if you a person that knows money, you start to look around, and you come to LA and you start to look around and say, "Man, there's money all around me," right? All I got to do is figure out how I can get it from the environment. See, even language is very important with observation, because a person may say, "How do I make money?" Now, first of all, you know how hard it is to make money, right? The U.S. Treasury is the only people that make money. The rest of us, we just get money, right? We have to figure out what we can exchange for what's made. So when I look around, I know some people that's great sellers. They always got a product. So they can have a conversation with somebody in 5 minutes and then they sell them something. But they didn't know that their money was in that person's pocket, but they had to exchange, right, with energy and have a product ready to receive what was theirs already. They didn't have to make any money. They just had to get it out the pocket of the person who held it. But if they're the type of person that's always looking for opportunity and that's always looking for a way to where they can get in the flow of money and get into the flow of success, then that's the only thing that they will produce, because their habits and their energy, their conversation, their language will be constantly producing what they want to observe. So anybody that wants to see the world in a lens of negativity, then they will particularly produce things and habits to constantly create that. The last time I was pulled over by the police, I can't remember. Last encounter I had with the police has been a long time. I know for a fact that they are very racist police who can only observe from one of the lowest observations, which is the color spectrum, right? The color observation is one of the lowest spectrums of observation. Looking at a person's color and observing them based on that, and then taking your insights based on that and judging their character. So when a person thinks about real observation, it's not even, I always say this, everybody's beautiful on an atomic level. You know what I mean? We all look the same atomically, right? So if I want to observe how beautiful a person is, I can stop at their features, right? That perception of societal beauty creates a very low spectrum of observation. But to go deeper beyond the insights of your own look and built-in program, and then you start to engage in a spirit, right? And then you start to engage in more deepness of things that's immaterial that you can't see. So one of the greatest higher observations are things that are unseen, right? But once you observe the unseen, then you produce a greater vision connotated to that which you see in reality, meaning that once I stop looking at people for what they look like and I started to look at who they are, then I stopped to observe their spirit. But what is spirit? If we want to go in the connotation of energy, you're talking about air itself. You're talking about the energy all around us. So here I am as a high observer. I'm observing people's spirits, right? But I can't see their spirit, but I can observe it. So once you observe something good, the same way if I'm having a conversation with somebody that's negative, if I want to change the conversation, then I have to get them to start observing the positive, right? Because here they are complaining about their day. So I'm always trying to turn it around. Well, what good happened in your day? Because I want to stress that. I want you to pay attention to that and start observing that so it can pick you up to a higher frequency. So it's not just what we observe, it's how we interact with it and how we react to it. Because don't react to anything, interact with it. That's a whole new phase. Once you're reacting, you're just caught up in a cycle. We react to white supremacy the same way, caught up in a cycle, but we react to it to say, well, you know what, we're going to start strategizing, being spooked. and start implementing and mobilizing and taking control the same way that they do. That's a different interaction than it is for us observing the same thing, reacting, and trying to justify our observations by our reactions.
Interact, don't react.
Yes, sir.
That's dope. Yeah, I hope everybody understood that and got that down. I might write that on the shirt. You know what I'm saying? That's something that we all got to keep in mind, because that's something, family, I want you to know this. And this is some real shit right here, 19 Keys. The shit we talking about tonight, and I don't want to say shit in a derogatory sense and belittle or lower what we're talking about, but what we're talking about tonight is such high frequency thought pattern that, you know, I know the fact that it's on YouTube, people don't appreciate it because people don't appreciate things that are given to them what they call free. So, you know, we're sleeping on how blessed we are and how fortunate we are to know what we know and have access to what we have access to. There was times when our ancestors didn't have access. The books that I got right now, my arsenal, like, you know, our dudes talk about their gun catalog and their gun collection. My book collection right now, rare books, and I got Keys to Inner Space coming to Patreon. The audiobook version is going to be on Patreon by next Monday. So make sure you're a Patreon member. This is out of print. This is rare. You can't find it nowhere. Look at the pages, family. The pages is red. Look, you see how that red? This is some rare shit.
One time.
Huh?
At that Red Sea.
Yeah. Yo, join the Patreon. I got the audiobook coming. But listen, family, don't take for granted what we're letting you know just because it's on YouTube. Or I even say this, 19 Keys, just because I fully don't know how to utilize some of the things I say, don't mean that it's valid. Literally, I tell Red Pill and Blue Pill this. If I wanted to, I could fly. I don't have that passion in me to fly though. It's not part of my it's not part of my program right now. It's not part of my journey. But one day, like I said, I'm putting that out there because 10 generations now, my great grandchild might be the first person that flies in that era. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to continue to put that out, and they'd be like, yo, my 10 times great granddaddy, that nigga was a genius for saying that. But anyway, listen, let's move on. So I just don't take for granted what we're saying. And also make sure you donate to the Cash App, family. What I want to talk to you about, 19 Keys, I had something specific. I don't see what I had specifically, but listen, let's talk about this. We don't see with our eyes. Sometimes we go to sleep, 19 Keys, we could, we still see. It's just as real as this reality right here. Sometimes we visualize, sometimes we daydream. It's just as real as this reality right here. They said they did a test with, you know, I see you and Blue Pill working out. Y'all got the gold water. Yes, they did a test with some brothers one time where they hooked the electrodes up to their brain, and they, you know, and they read what was going on in their mind, and it registered. They was thinking about working out, and it registered the same as if they was lifting the weights. So somebody might say, Brother Rich, are you trying to say that you could just sit on your ass and get diesel? And another person might say, hell no, you got to put in that work. So 19 Keys, is this a work game or is this a mental game? Because they're saying that our brain doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So the neurons is going to fire and the message is going to get triggered to the muscles, and the muscles is going to react the same way, whether it happened in this reality or your inner reality. So am I crazy for saying I could get diesel by imagining 19 Keys?
I believe that it's possible, to be honest with you. As Dr. Sebi would say that, you know, you get strength from your mind, not your muscles. Because imagine if you have a huge tractor trailer, and this tractor trailer has the ability to be able to pick up 10,000 pounds, right? But without electricity, that tractor trailer can't do anything, right? It has the potential to do everything. Now, when we think about the mind, I can tell my mind to be able to run 100 miles per hour, 100,000 miles per hour, right? But when my mind sends the signal to my body has to be able to produce and has to be connected to my mind and the signals that I'm sending it to. Okay. But if body is decrepit, then my body won't be able to take the order that my mind just gave it. But imagine that I work out my body for my entire life. I mean, everything is so that I can get up to just 100 miles per hour. Right now, 100 miles per hour, we know that based on human physicality, that's impossible. So let's just go to the fastest man in the world, right? So at day one, your mind has the ability, right? Regardless if your body is there to send the right signal to produce the action to be able to run 100 miles per hour. Your mind doesn't have to do the workout. It's your body that does, right? Your mind is already ready. Your body got to catch up to what your mind has the ability to do. So a person may look at, and we can look at it like this. If I ask a person, what's their size, right? It's the size of their brain. And they gonna say, okay, my brain about this big. I ask you the size of your body, you will look at the dimensions of your body. I ask you, what's the size of your mind? You can't tell. The mind is limitless. It has no size. So when you talk about a vision, regardless of how big it is, and you're streaming with a limitless mind, with have a limitless capacity of energy and streaming and consciousness, this is the reason why all imagination is possible, because you have no limits for what you stream your possibilities.
Wait, you said you hold on. No, go ahead, finish, brother. Go ahead.
So even when we think about the body, we must think about our energy, right? Because when a person is doing physical energy, work is an exertion of energy. So physical energy and mental energy is really all of the same thing. That's why when a person thinks a thought is the same thing as that they're actually doing the thought, right? This is the reason that we have mirror neurons and things of that nature, that we do everything that we do. But a person has so much energy and electricity within a body that they can't even fathom, right? Because every cell and every atom of your body houses electricity, hundreds of thousands of millions of volts of electricity. But how do you pull that out of self, right? So yes, a person may be able to, I know plenty of people who don't work out that have plenty of muscle, right? And I'll be trying to figure out, like, damn, I'm doing all this. You got muscles over there, right? But it's a different metabolic energy, the same way a sperm doesn't need to work out to be able to swim to the egg, right? Because it has motility, right? Mobility is the ability for something to be pushed. Motility is the metabolic energy that something has to be able to go forward to something. So we all have motility within us, but that's the ability also to be able to harness that chi, or that energy that we have up, or those hundreds of millions of volts of electricity that exist within the pockets of our body, and to be able to harness that and make it move. So when our mind has a thought, then we can also summon the energy to produce that thought in that reality. So if your mind literally told all of your energy, right, to go into all the pockets of your muscles, right, and pull out and sculpt yourself, you could do that if you have the ability to control your energy, right, to control your spirit, to control your chi. But you're so lost with the art of even breathing that, yes, you can give the mind an order, but the body can't follow, because the body is not in tune with the mind, because we're disconnected. So it's getting back to the connection of our cells, right? And when you say our cells, we're talking about our cells, because our cells house so much energy. It's saying that how can we make all things flow all at once, so that any order I give the mind, I can say be, then it is. That's the ultimate God consciousness.
Dope. Listen, when you talk about the word, when you use a word such as streaming consciousness, I like the fact that in 2019, when you say streaming, we have a concept of what streaming is. We have a device like this, and if I say I'm streaming something, it's not on this device, it's coming from another device onto this device. So we have brothers like Billy Carson in the ancient texts say all the time, the brain does not produce consciousness, it downloads it in modern terms. It downloads it in modern terms. So since we're streaming on downloaded consciousness, and since consciousness is non-local, my brother 19 Keys, how does that process work? Like, how do I get something that's not, because I'm thinking I'm this body here. How do I get something outside in here? That's what I'm thinking, or the average person is thinking. So explain that process.
Well, when you think about even, I believe when you're talking about superposition and things of that nature, in the same way cell phones work, you're talking about two things that have different locations but that are intertangled, like quantum entanglement. So in essence, when you're talking about all of these different things, you're talking about different dimensions. See, the problem a lot of times is we observe things from the dimension of sight, and we think about sight and what we see as the only dimension. This just represents third dimension spectrum, right? We have an inner dimension within ourselves. That's why when we want to pray or we meditate, we close our eyes to go into the inner dimension. This inner dimension is limitless, right? And in this limitless, it is literally another world. So when you talk about that, let's talk about dreaming and lucid dreaming, right? The average individual spends, and I'm not a statistician on this one, but you spend about what, 40 to 50% of your life, depending on how lazy or how active you are. You're going to spend so much time dreaming, but do you remember any of your dreams, right? Do you even, that is an entire different life to me that you live, that you just can't memorize when you get older, but I mean, as you wake up. But if you could remember everything that you ever dreamed of in every memory, here you have two different lives that you live in at all times. One that you're projecting from an inner dimension, but the question becomes is, the thoughts that I have in waking hours, does that affect the dreams, or do my dreams affect my waking hours, right? So both of them have to be interconnected at the same time. And the brain never sleeps. Literally, when we're talking about the electricity that the brain produces when it's awoke and the electricity that the brain produces when it's asleep, it is the same. So the consciousness is always streaming, but let's go to a person's brain, this conduit of electricity that we use to stream our consciousness, right? So even the gold water, shameless plug, but let's go to lucid dreaming, right? A person to tell me that, man, I took the gold water, I had my first dream in years, I had my first lucid dream in years. Right there, say, man, it feels like my concentration, my memory, my IQ, my mood, depression, all these things have increased. So I say, well, why? What does gold does? Gold increases the conductivity of electricity within your brain. But what happens while you sleep? It stimulates the area of the hippocampus within your brain, which regulates mood, memory, and learning. So when you go into a deep sleep, into that REM sleep, what it effectively does is when your brain is in that deep REM sleep, it sends over, right, a brainwash. So it sends over fluid over the ridges of your brain to be able to clear out the neurotoxins, right? And all the things that you were learning throughout your day begin to download and create new neuroplasticity, right? So you create new neural connections while you sleep. So when you wake up, you actually have access to your thoughts, access to the things you learned, right? So the compression of energy that you didn't get to express or release, now because that hippocampus area of your brain is working, right? So now it regulating your mood even better, right? So now your memory, so now your problem solving brain is higher. So now you like, dang, this golden made me smarter because it stimulated that area of your hippocampus to where therefore now you can think clearly. So now when I wake up in the morning, my brain is clear, there's no fog. So this is very important though, because when a person goes into the deep sleep and within their dreams, right? There's a famous white guy, and maybe you know his name. He talks about, he has, he's a multi-millionaire. He has like hundreds and hundreds of inventions and patents. And he says that when he wants to produce a new idea, he goes into his lucid dreaming, right? And he says the way he lucid dreaming is right before, you know, you're about to wake and you're about to sleep. You're in between the dreaming world and the conscious world. And he says, I have ideas there about inventions. And then I take those ideas from my dream and I wake up and I execute on those. And I think that's a very important skill set because the average person limit themselves by their external sight, not knowing that they have a vision that they can produce out into their reality to be able to observe. So in real time, an individual can pull things from inside their inner dimension, which is an infinite darkness. But in that darkness, you have an eye, right? And in that eye, you can start to see within that darkness and images start to pull up. And some of those images that you pull up, you can produce energy into motion until, like Einstein said, E equals MC squared. Energy equals mass squared at the speed of light. So you can pull that so that matter can be observed. So I had a movement that talks about Black dreams matter. And now I'm at this point where it talks about Black dreams materialize, because we have to be able to see the dreams pulled from our mind unto our reality. So the goal is when you stream in any consciousness, you're going into the deep, the inner part within self. And the questioning aspect of, I think one of the limits of the human one of the limits of humans is needing to know all the details. You know? Like,
Hold up. Explain that. Explain that, my brother.
for the vision to be true, right? But what is vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what is faith, right? Faith is belief in the unseen,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I got 20-0 vision, and everybody, I want y'all to rock with me here. And I need everybody to have 20-0 vision by the time I'm done speaking. 20/20 vision talks about a person being able to see the eye chart from 20 feet away, right? So they can see those numbers based on the eye chart that the white guy created. Now, when you can see it even farther back, they say, oh, that man got 2015 vision, right? Even farther, he got 2010. Now, a person that can't see that well, they got 2040 vision, 2050. It gets so bad that they legally blind. They got to get so up close to be able to see it. Now, a person that has 20/0 vision, they ain't even got to see it to know it's there. But they have belief in self, right? So when you have a vision, you have to be the one that believe in self, right? To where nobody else around you can see it. They got to wait till you start to produce more results and be like, oh, I see the vision now. But the goal is to have 20/0 vision and not even need to see it with your eyes to know it's there, right? Because I don't see with my eyes just take electrical signals and it takes it to the back of my brain, right? And based on if I'm a low observer or a high observer, I'm going to interpret that based on the information that's within my mind to create the perception of my reality. So low observers can only produce from the signal and the information of this mathematical universe. They can only compute certain perceptions. So when we talk about visualization, observation, and all of these different things, you're talking about streaming the universe within self and then taking those streams, right, and then creating the perceptions of your reality.
Yo, I mean, like I said, family, don't take this conversation for granted that we're having tonight. This is a goodie. This is a goodie right here, family. If you want to improve your life, you'd be surprised. You ask for something in life, and you'd be surprised what the universe, God, whatever name you have for, this energy that exists within you, the answer it gives you. The answer it gives you may not come in the form you may want or expect, but it certainly does come. This right here, this conversation tonight will drastically improve your life. I'm 100% confident in it. So if it seems like I could talk my shit about that. I'm 100% confident in it. Me and this brother right here, this is a magnificent conversation. What I want to talk to you or build with you on right now, my brother 19 Keys, based on what you said and based on what I'm hearing, from my research, I'm discovering how intelligent the heart is. We hear about the brain, but I'm discovering how important the heart is. Some people call it the second brain. Some people say that it has just as many or more neurons in it than the brain does. And some people say that the heart, your feelings produce neuropeptides that get sent to the brain. So in fact, the brain takes orders from the heart. So thus we hear the phrase, follow your heart. Because of all that, we hear people say, follow your heart. When you follow your heart, you'll be going in the right direction. Make sure you follow your heart, follow your passion. A bunch of black women would say, nigga, Keys, Rich, I follow my heart. This nigga wasn't shit, or this happened. I'm tired of following my heart because my heart keeps getting broken. So we keep hearing following your heart, but a lot of our people say when they follow their heart, the shit gets broken in this world. Talk to me about that dynamic, 19 Keys.
No one should have a fear-based mindset regardless of how much they've considered themselves to be broken. No one is broken unless they perceive.
19, these sisters is positive. They want to have a good man. Then and the niggas still turn out not to. Well, go ahead, brother.
but here's the thing, right? We have to rationalize all our emotions, right?
Yes.
So the reason you have a brain and a heart is because the heart does send those peptides and it sends that information, but it's sending it to the brain to rationalize this behavior.
Okay.
Right? So that you don't just take all of the information from the heart and completely follow it. You first filter it through the brain. That is the reason that we're masculine and feminine, right? Because the feminine aspect
is the heart.
The heart, and the masculine
is the brain.
When we rise above emotions into the thinking of God, that's God consciousness. So procrastination is a feminization, right? in a man. And I'm gonna explain this in a second and how it all correlates. When a one doesn't want to do something, why? It's because of how they feel about it. They say, I don't want to do that. I don't feel like doing that right now. Or that's painful, whatever it may be. Because now here you are succumbing to your feelings instead of pushing past that to rationalize with logic to say, oh, but I got this goal, so I'm going to continue to do it because a man produces his will, right? God is consciousness. Everything within the universe has a mathematical computation to it, right? From our cells, from our atoms, muons, whatever it may be, everything has a mathematical computation, meaning everything has a meaning. Everything within nature has a reason, right? So that our heart is sending us signals, but our brain must rationalize with the information. So yes, you can see it. Oftentimes we like to go with how we feel about a person, regardless of what we think about them or what we feel. So a lot of women will go with these guys that they got plenty of signals that he was no good, but they saying, but I love him though. You know what I mean? So these are two conflicts. Your brain already taking the information that you just sent it, and it's giving you also a good feeling, but it's giving you a bad. But we want to go with the good feeling, but I feel this could. So even a woman says, you know what, I can change him. That's not rational. Rational thinking would be, no, you can't, right? So the goal would be to be truly in tune with self. Because if you are out of tune with self, right, and here the heart is sending you these signals to go over it, like my heart can tell me to jump off a bridge and I'm gonna enjoy it, but I'm gonna rationalize with the logic to be like, no, heart, you is tripping right now. So we have to also, for one, there's manipulation. Manipulation is being able to sneakily control a person's energy, making their logic think that their emotion is feeding them the right information. So you have a lot of brothers who may be devils in that aspect, to where, you know, they're able to utilize this young mind and manipulate their energy, right? And then when a person goes through more experiences, they are able to completely see that, and they can rationalize with that even better. So you have environment versus nature. In a correct environment, yes, you can go with your heart because everything is righteous and good around you. So regardless of who you pick, you just pick who you love. But in today, you have to look at people who are corrupt from their nature. So you can't just pick this black man because he's a black man, because he might have a white mind, right? So therefore, you can't go with your heart while you're living in hell. You have to rationalize this behavior with your mind. And you have to use logic and rationality and your intuitive thinking as well. And they have to be in combination. So your heart, your mind, and your spirit has to be aligned with all of your decisions. You're not giving one, you know what I mean, and not the other. You're giving all of them. And they're supposed to be in tune. But liability starts with the lies we tell ourselves, and we are often lying to ourselves. Even though we see the truth, we still start to lie to ourselves. And when you lie to yourself, you disalign, right, your heart and your thinking, right, your emotions and your thinking, and you start to kill your willpower. So the goal is to, yes, the heart produces this magnetic field of energy, this aura, to where each person comes in contact with the next person, and we send an energy and signals and electricity, and we can't connect it on the same frequency, right? We see this person, it makes us feel a certain way because we can literally feel the electricity of their energy. But then the rational mind says, okay, let me observe, let me be a high observer, and let me take insights from the design of what I'm seeing based on what I'm feeling, and let me ask, are they aligned? So if a person actually matched their notes with what their mind said and what their heart said, then they'd be like, you know what? Nah, mine said it wasn't good, right? Mine said it wasn't good, because the mind is God, right? That's why our relationships need man and woman, but man has not been taught how to learn his feminine aspect, because he doesn't study the woman. And today the woman only wants to be a man. Is usually, she doesn't want to be the healthiest version of a man. She wants to be the scorned version of a man. She wants to be the toxic version of a man, if one will, right? That's where you get feminines versus femininity, or yeah, feminines versus femininity. So even the heart that we're using, right, is in a wrong environment. And so we can't even trust our heart a lot of times, because our heart has been programmed, right? Our heart has been programmed in the wrong conditions, right? So therefore, a woman may want a guy that can buy her whatever she wants. And her heart says that, you know what, he's going to give me everything my heart desires. We've heard that before. Who curated that message to us? Programming, entertainment. What does your heart truly desire in itself? Because when somebody breaks your heart, all you wanted to have your heart back is to continue that feeling that it once had, where it was pumping healthy and it felt great. But now your heart has been attacked. So now the only thing the heart wants is to go back to its optimum health. So is it the heart's desire, right, to get into a situation that's going to break it, or is the heart desire to want to protect it? That's why the heart is surrounded, right, by your protection. So it is the reason you got a brain is to protect your heart, because your heart can lead you in the wrong direction when your mind is supposed to set you back on track.
Indeed. Okay. I definitely appreciate that balanced answer, my brother. Definitely. I guess I want to talk to you about the whole idea or the whole metaphysical concept of us of know thyself. And I've talked to different brothers about this, and it being, you know, some brothers approach it from a historical aspect, or some brothers approach it from an individual aspect. When you hear know thyself and you yourself, do you look at it as something that's an individual journey, or do you look at it as a black journey? Because some people feel as though it has nothing to do with black or white or color or race or nation or ethnicity. This is a completely individual journey that you have to have with your higher self in order to know thyself. And the reason why I ask that is because a lot of us, we don't have a relationship with ourselves. We have a relationship with everybody else, with the television, with ads, with stores, with people, with places, with animals, but not ourselves. So talk to me about that concept.
I think it can go into the concept of also being in tune with nature itself, right? Mm-hmm. In tune with nature's time and not man's time. Because when we talk about self, we're talking about being in tune with the circadian rhythm, right?
Okay.
Nature, earth and the sun and light and all of these different things. So you can't truly know yourself unless you're within the rhythm of nature, right? Okay. You have optimum performances at different peak times of the planet Earth. So can you truly know yourself if the sun is not sending you those signals to where you can interpret those signals to know when is the optimum times when you're performing or you eating or you're doing all of these different things? So a lot of us as Black people within America are out of tune with nature itself. So therefore, when we try to know ourselves, we're knowing it from the existence of being in man's reality instead of God's or nature's reality.
Okay.
So let's go into, you know, who we are. Mm-hmm. Most people try to figure out throughout their entire life what I want to do instead of who I want to be or who am I. So that's why we start searching for ourselves externally, right? Search for ourselves. And we search for ourselves in jobs. We search for ourselves in rewards and awards. We search for ourselves through social validation instead of looking within a God within. Because when you know yourself and when you know thyself, then you know what you want to do because you know what type of person you are. If I want to be a good person, but here I want to get into capitalism, then that means that I have to know what I want to do in order to continuously be myself. So I know that I'm not going to make certain deals that benefit me but fuck other people over because I want to be a good person. I'm thinking about the things that I want to produce, right? So being in tune with nature, you're talking about nature, you're talking about righteousness itself. When you're talking about Black, the way when I hear the word Black, I just hear original, right? Okay. And when I hear original, I'm talking about that triple darkness, right? The nature of human beings. If you go to the pygmy people, what are the pygmy people out there doing out in Africa, man? They out there hunting, they out there dancing, they out there having sex, and they have zero crime, right? These are people that just align with their nature, right? They're not doing no evil. They said that even some of the people in the surrounding areas try to practice cannibalism and eat these people because they believe they're magical.
Wow.
You're talking about people that are aligned with their nature, right? You talking about zero crime? You talking about people that just enjoy the spirit, they just hunt what they need, right? They just continue to have sex and produce babies and procreate. So you're talking about people who don't have to ever search for themselves, ever. It's not even a question, because a question is what? A quest that we lead ourselves on. So we have to go find ourselves in America because we're not surrounded with divine reminders of our nature, because we are out of tune with nature. So therefore, what man has when he's out of tune with nature, he gives him religion so that he can live within the order and construct of his nature. So now it's like, look, okay, follow these rules. That's the reason Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had the angels Jibril come to him and tell him, like, look, I'm gonna give you the nature of the original man on the planet Earth, and I need you to follow this and teach it to your people because they uncivilized and crazy, right? Because y'all don't know yourselves, right? So the goal at all times is, when you're talking about knowing thyself, you're talking about getting into the rhythm of what your actual nature is and producing goodwill. So to know thyself is to be back connected to your nature of who you truly are, and back connected to the spectrum of righteousness as an original human being on this planet Earth. So it's getting rid of the customs that you've been socialized to and indoctrinated with. And you saying, that how can I connect back to my nature? So studying your nature is the study of self itself. And that's when you truly know thyself, is when you're connected back to nature. And Black people, I'm gonna say this last thing. Anytime I go to the woods, I see nothing but white people there. Nothing but white people there, right? But we are the biggest people who need to go back into nature, right? And to be able to observe nature itself sends us the signal of who we are, right? To observe the trees, to be able to see the sunsets go up and down. It attunes our body, right? That spectrum that we see of that hue spectrum of light gazing and things of that nature. It connects us with that enlightenment. They don't call it enlightenment for nothing. You gotta observe the light, man.
You gotta observe the light, indeed.
Yeah, we observing all these artificial lights trying to get to know ourselves. You can't get to know yourself in an environment that's not meant to be that's surrounded with white patriarchal intellect. We're surrounded in the white man's mind. He constructed the building. He constructed the way that everything around us is designed, and design creates interaction. If I create a knob that says you have to pull up in order to get into the room, then it's going to force your interaction to a certain way. So this world is designed based off the white man's mind. He creates windows with squares. He doesn't create buildings with colors. He creates everything for a control mechanism. And everything is based on the attunement of his nature and not ours. But remember, he comes from a cold climate. He comes from a place where he wants to control and have power and domain over a people. So everything is boxing you into a control, right? So most people never step out of the strings of control. So you don't see too many original designs. You don't see uncommon thinking. In nature, it talks about things being wild, things being free. You know what I'm talking about? Wild is really freedom without control, right? Or freedom without discipline, I should say, right? So something that is wild is free, but it has no discipline, right? So a lot of times when we want to be wild, for some reason, we always go to the unrighteous side of what it means to be wild instead of the righteous side of what it means to express yourself and to be wild as far as being creative and being rebellious as far as originality and stepping out of this society and saying that, no, I'm gonna create my own world. Looking at the institutions of education saying, I'm gonna create my own, that's my rebellion. Looking at the archetypes of gangster and saying, no, I'm gonna be a god, that's my rebellion. Looking at the social validations that they created for us and saying, no, I'm gonna validate myself as the God within. Looking at all of the ways that they said that we have to climb up to society and said, no, I'm gonna speak my godliness, create my own institution and still be out here with my own power. But if you walk down the street, the average person looks like the next person. The average person is picking an archetype and just going with it. Nobody has an original design except a few people. And then when we see them, we be like, huh, that was different. That was different. But sometimes we crucify originality because it stands out, so we weary of it. And then it becomes weird to us, and we can't accept anything that we don't understand. So those parts of us that we don't understand, we become weary of, and we draw back. We be like, nah, I don't get why you think like that. Why you can't think like everybody else? Why you embarrassing me? Why don't you just fit in with everybody else? Why don't you just dress a certain way? What's that idea? So we start to kill it from indoctrination from parents, from peers, and directly their voices become our voices within ourselves. So we start to fight against our very inner nature, and everything we do is to get away from self and to be like everyone else. So once you see yourself start to assimilate, congratulations, you're no longer original.
Well, you're using words like inner nature and you know, us living in the white man's mind. What I want to talk to you about is something that's obviously one of the main problems if we're going to talk about a community and label a community and say the Black community. Some people don't argue with me about the Moorish community. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I say the Black community. Don't do that. But if we're going to talk about the Black community, 19 Keys, and we're talking about our inner nature and what's wrong or what's going on with the Black community, a lot of people would feel as though the problem between a Black man and a woman, a lot of that comes down to the issues with us, comes down to the Black man's inability to be faithful to one woman. So him not being faithful to this one woman, she do some grimy shit. She side with the white man. She do all types of weird shit. His ability not to be faithful, he have kids on her. Nigga got 3 family. It could go both. It could go wrong or good both ways. What we were taught, 19 Keys, is that we're supposed to have one wife, one woman. We have one. We marry this woman, and we have a family with this woman. What a lot of brothers are saying is that this is not our nature. We are meant to have multiple wives. So since we're talking about living in a white man's mind, since we're talking about fighting against our very nature, and since we're talking about, advancing, what's your thought about this beef that goes on between a Black man and a Black woman about we just can't seem to be faithful to one Black woman?
First of all, brother, Black men don't cheat.
All right. Charlemagne would be proud of you, my brother. Charlemagne would. Go ahead, my brother.
I was entertaining this idea in this myth that society perpetuates. That a Black man participates in unfaithfulness. I talked about this actually before. I said that you cannot cheat when it's your original nature, right? So when we talk about white patriarchal intellect and we talk about structures, I think the reason also that you may incur a lot of unfaithfulness. For one, of course, is lack of discipline. We live in an over hyper and sexual society to where a man now has a phone. And I'm telling you, some of the most beautiful women that you didn't even know why God spent so much time on making her look so good. You know what I mean? Trying to figure out, but man of ancient time, they didn't get to see all of these expressions of beauty and frequencies. But let's get into a more important aspect of it. Monogamy. The question always becomes whether it's our nature or not, right? Monogamy itself is kind of like religion. It's order that we were given so that we can live in a construct to where we can build nations, we can build legacies. But the goal at the same time is most relationships are not positioning anything deeper than emotions and feelings. A person is not coming together so that they can create a business. You're not coming together so that you can actually create institutions and build legacies and have intergenerational wealth. So it's easy for a person to be able to cheat on a feeling, but it's harder for a person to be able to cheat on a legacy, to be able to cheat on something that's bigger than both of yourselves. So I think that a lot of these relationships that we get into are started from a lot of very mundane reasons, very plain reasons, or very insecure reasons. So at the same time, the question becomes this, I think, which is a bigger question about polygamy as well. And then if you're going to have the conversation about polygamy, you should have entered in the conversation about LGBTQ and what it means to be polygamy versus gay marriage, monogamy versus polygamy. Both of these things have interconnectedness, right? Because when one accepts that a Black man can be with another Black man and a Black woman can be with a Black woman and get married, then one must also recognize that there's now an imbalance into society, right? That can a Black man now be able to have 2 Black women, since now this Black man wants 1 Black man? Those are 2 Black men taken out of position. So the question of all of these different things is that we have a society that is completely against our nature, not connected to the original reasons that we got together in unions in the first place. And if we're not getting together in unions so that we can procreate and produce nations and have reasons that are bigger than ourselves or our emotions or our sexual lust and our drive, then we will continue to have these issues that exist. But also, Black women and Black men have grew up in a society that has entrained you to think only one particular way. So we judge each other, like you say, by the white man's mind and by his way of doing things. We're not judging each other by African culture, but it's going to be impossible for a black man to make the argument to a black woman that, wait a minute, this is what we did in Africa. Because you have to understand that in all of her dreams of getting married, she has always seen the Prince Charming, right? She has always seen the happily ever after. She has always watched all of these different movies that have showed her somebody cheating on her and breaking her heart and how this man is now evil. None of it was saying that, wait a minute, what caused it? What part of that reality is that man bad because he did that, right? And these are too many different conversations that an individual had to break down on many different levels. When you talk about society, culture, and you talk about nature, you talk about marriage, you talk about the reasons that men actually had multiple wives, or the reason that man had one wife. You talk about relationships today, that the only real relationship that matters is the one where a person is married. Because if a person has a boyfriend or girlfriend, you're already setting yourself up to be cheated on because you haven't created a bond that a person has agreed to not do something. That's the reason you get marriages that's supposed to be contractual agreement that you're supposed to stick by, right? Because the white man created this world of contracts. So when you contract an agreement, it's supposed to bind you to a union. And really, that's the only time where a person can be unfaithful is when they bonded by a contract and not just by a boyfriend-girlfriend agreement, right? That's kind of like, you know, you just Airbnb something. You're not contracted to stay there to continue to add value into it. Eventually, you're going to move out anyway. So I don't even want to harp too much on this subject just because I think that each man and woman gets to decide for themselves, right? An agreement of trust and communication, right? That if we want to program the next generation to view things through a different lens, then we have to start with the youth. Because the way that the adult is programmed now is damn near impossible to get them to see each other based on our nature. We can only see it through the lens of the paradigm that we live in, which is structured through white patriarchal and white matriarchal intellect. So it's going to be impossible for us to be able to view each other and be like, oh, I see you as a black man within your nature. If I talk to a woman about masculinity, she's going to be viewing me through white matriarchal intellect about toxic masculinity or gay patriarchal intellect, because that's where toxic masculinity first came from, that term from a gay white man, right? So it's like we are even fighting to have a conversation and communicate with our woman. But what has took over civil rights, gay rights, and women's rights? Right? And in between that, we can't even talk to our women unless we take position with them in the series of gay rights and women's rights. We can't even talk to them about building a black family, right? You trying to build a relationship with a woman and she like, well, what do you think about gay rights? What do you think about women's rights? So we can't even have a conversation with each other without somebody in between. And somehow the white man gets excluded from the things that he's caused. So she'll go to a white man because she say this black man is messed up, even though he had a direct effect on that, right? So now the slave master children get to stand on the side and be like, you know what, I'm going to treat you right though, right? And then the gay white man at the same time, he's telling him that, no, this is toxic masculinity, right? Anything of the masculine divine, because it's impossible that a black man in his masculine mind is going to assimilate to the thinking of all of these recessive entities that are in between him and his woman. I don't have to agree with none of that stuff. But if we can have a conversation based on our nature and who we are as guys and goddesses, and you cannot be viewing me through somebody else's mindset the same way a woman can't go and become a CEO and start to act like a white man, come back home and be mad nobody wants to be with her. Because now I feel like I'm talking to a white man when I have a conversation with you. So it's like we have a lot of issues, and unless I can have a conversation with you as a black woman in your nature, and you can have a conversation with me as a black man within our nature, then we have to practice what we call separation and find those who do think alike so we can start building in that microcosm and build community and nation out of that.
Facts, my brother. I mean, I definitely could dig that talk. I definitely understand where you're coming from. And just moving on, you have a group, you're part of a group called Paradigm Shifters.
Yes, sir, the Shifters.
The Shifters.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, when it comes to shifting, when we're talking about shifting paradigms, or when we're talking about changing frequencies, or we're talking about just changing our current situation, it seems as not that it seems as though what actually happens is that the paradigm, the frequency, whatever we're in, it fights the hell out of us to stay present. So we're trying to be something, then out of nowhere, something out of the blue will happen, and a nigga will say, God damn. Every time something good happens, something bad happens. There's all types of sayings that happens when we're trying to do something. We think something good happens, then boom, this shit, something just brings us right back to where we was at. What's going on where every time somebody tries to change their paradigm or change their frequency or change their vibration, and then it just seems that something pulls their ass right back to where they've been at the past 5-10 years?
Your subconscious mind fights against change, and that's what paradigm is supposed to be shifted. So even the whole entire subconscious mind, as us as a community, fights against the very change that we want to see have happen. Anytime we see a person going against the direction of we see them, it's like, let's say with Jay-Z, right? I don't know the full production. I'm only going to use this as an example and not from the literal context of what's happening with him in the Super Bowl. But when we seen Jay-Z producing changes, 444, doing social political work, we was happy of the new paradigm shift that he was producing in this new archetype of this social philanthropic rapper, right? This social conscious rapper with this beautiful wife, and they're setting these great examples.
Right.
But as a collective, even though we like it, we still don't like it subconsciously. We don't like the change. We want anything to show us that this is still a nigga, right? Right? We can't wait for a moment. So when the whole thing happened, it gave us that moment to revert him back to a drug dealer in our eyes, to a no good nigga. Now, like I said, I'm only using this as an example, not in the literal context of what happened. So don't over scrutinize the details of the reality. But when we talk about shifting the paradigm, you have to shift it from many different ways in order for it to fully happen. And then the only way to shift a paradigm is to provide a new example, right? So you have to lead it into something else. You can't just tell people to stop doing one thing without giving them an example of what that new thing is. If you look at Nipsey Hussle, he was an example of a paradigm shift, which create new archetypes to follow his example by leading. Right? So individuals can be like, oh, I just do what Nipsey does. Thank you for the new design. Thank you for the new paradigm. But as long as a person is talking about rappers doing this, that, and the third, that's not enough to shift the paradigm. We need to be able to see it. We need to have it imprinted within our environments, and our food, within our clothing, within our political movements, within our media, within our education, right? We need to have it all hitting, because what you do frequently controls your frequency. In order to control the arithmetic of something, you have to do it so abundantly and so frequency that it produces a new paradigm. I always tell people it takes one day to start a new habit. That's the day you start, and that's the day you don't quit. But the difference is the control you have over yourself to give yourself an order and to continue to go through with that order for the rest of your life, right? So Black people in America have been fighting subconsciously against the change. 2019 is the year of the keys. It's the year of the woman, right? It's the reason you see so many women rising, and we go into the subconscious details of what the actual issues are. So it started off with the Me Too movement, attacking the paradigm of white patriarchal issues, but not just going from, you know, political things. We going deep into their emotional issues. So now you're seeing a lot of the things being bombarded into the media, like these sex rings and things of that nature. If you want to find a reason to hate Donald Trump, forget the political shit. Think about the fact that he's a pedophile, right? So it's like when you get to that level of agreement and that level to the subconscious issues that exist within that man, you find an impossibility to be able to agree with him or accept him on any political level. That will cause a paradigm shift in people's mind when they can be like, you know what, this nigga is a pedophile. I'm supporting a pedophile. It changes the direction of energy. But how do you replace him? You have to produce a new model. So that's why the DMC right now, the Democrats is fighting, trying to figure out who's going to replace Donald Trump, because there's not enough to talk shit about him. You have to produce a new model that somebody else, that the people can believe in. So we're going to continue to have issues unless we fight the paradigm on all levels and we shift it on all levels. So we have to not only see, oh, I like this brother out here doing, man, he's doing dope things. Well, how did we complain about the Jews, but what does the Jews do? They take the disenfranchised youth that's creative and they invest into their potential. and then they exploit their potential for their own gain. And now these same people are being like, well, you know what, shit, y'all mad at the Jews, but I was just a poor little broke boy on the block with a dream, right? So they gave me the game and put me in position. I'm not mad at them. So how do you change that? You don't just tell that young brother like, man, these are some devils. He's like, they devils, but if you God, give me something too, right? So you would have to come to that same young man with opportunities and invest in his potential. If we invested into the young paradigm shifters that we see the same way they invest into rap artists so that they can be, then of course we would have a new paradigm shift. But we have to do that economically. We have to do that through media. We have to do that through throwing events. We have to do that through all of these different things that through politics, all of these things that support the actual paradigm shift and push them up into a position, because everybody wants to be like the one who does it only 10% of the time, right? And the reason I say that is because when you look at who gets the most glory for things, if a rapper come out and make a political message just 10% of the time, right, he's gonna get all the glory. People go love him. Like, dang, that brother's social conscious, he woke, he revolutionary. But the person that does it 90% of the time, they gonna hate on him. And if they find out 10% of the time he going to the strip club, they gonna be mad. You know what I mean? But if you only do it 10% of the time, there's less expectations on your revolution.
Oh shit!
Right? So you get to be appreciated without actually having to do the work. So the young people look at that and be like, I'd rather be the nigga that's doing it 10% of the time with the money and the cars. You know what I mean? Because they seem the ones that get rewarded and awarded literally the most. They the ones who leaders. They meet with all of the media people and everybody else. But here this young brother dedicating almost 100% of his life to this shit. And motherfuckers don't even get behind that. But somebody come up here with a fucking catchy phrase 10% of the time and people on their nutsack. So it's like you can't be mad at the paradigm not shifting when the people who put their life on the line 90 to 100% of the time are not appreciated. And they got to create the entire universe for themselves to get up, and people waiting to see the full production of their vision into reality. And then they be like, oh, we'll support you once you build it completely outward, right? So that is a different thing, but you support the rapper as soon as they get started. You support the nigga as soon as they get started. So the nigga get a lot more support from other niggas than good people get support from so-called other good people. So we have an issue of the 10% versus the 90% rule.
We see these memes on social media where there might be a race, and you know, before the race, the black person it may be a black person, a white person. The black person is handicapped, may have his leg tied together, and the white person is able to jet out in front of him in front of the race. So obviously the white person has an advantage for that race. What I want to talk to you about is the race for manifestation and the race for creating our reality. If we're creating from God consciousness, let's just say consciousness, from the invisible realm, from the inner realm, do white people do they really have white privilege over us if we're all tapping into the unseen realm? 19 keys, is their white privilege just an illusion that we have created, or is this something real?
Well, we both have the same privilege, you know, it's the privilege of having minds, right? So if I have a mind, there's no privilege you can have over me. I got a mind just like you got, right? Regardless of the circumstances that my mind is in and the environment that my mind is in, I can produce whatever reality that I want to, right? That's the privilege of all living human beings, is the reality to take the conditions of our mind and produce whatever reality, to start from one way and change their way just by changing their thinking. So, but you have to look at, when you talk about a paradigm, you're talking about a world view, a collective view, right? If I want to really shift the paradigm, I have to get you to think like I do. So we produce the reality on the same frequency. So we produce the same world so we can live in the same world. So the question becomes this: what are black minds being fed to where they constantly produce the reality that we're living, right? So when we talking about being fed, not only the food that we're eating, but the media, the entertainment, the things that are going into our mind is producing our reality that we produce. So when we engage in mindless activities like the entertainment and the media, like even watching all these hip hop shows have been scientifically proven that it lowers your IQ. So now you're going to sleep in your mind factory, in your dream factory. What are you going to produce? The garbage you just took in, right? So it's like you can't be mad at someone else when they're streaming white supremacy and they're producing white supremacy. right? But if you
Streaming white, they're streaming white supremacy.
right, we got to stream black activists to produce black activists. You know what I mean? How the hell you go believe in this metaphysical reality, but you consuming bullshit in the factory where God produces? And a man, his womb is in his mind, and a woman, her whole womb is in her body, right? To where it's like when man produces a will of his reality, what are you ingesting though, bro? You know what I mean? You can only produce what you take in, right? So we have a shitty reality because we eating shitty foods every single day, right? And so we're constantly ingesting all these liabilities, and we're mad at white supremacy because we're constantly perpetuating the reality that they're feeding us. So yeah, they're going to feed us the hip hop shows. They're going to feed us the music. They're going to feed us all the low vibrations. And knowing that we have some of the most powerful minds on the universe, and our electrical conductivity and our melanin produces this energy that communicates with the light and continuously perpetuates reality. We are the brains of America itself. We are the energy of America that continues to produce white supremacy. We produce any measure of black excellence, we produce that as well. But if whatever they feed us is the reality that we create, that's the reason that America is a superpower, because the number one secret is the fact that they got black gods producing reality for them. And all they got to do is constantly feed black gods. So what we do and go to school, we hear about their philosophies. So it consistently feeds us to help produce their reality, to continue to evolve their ideas, right? When we got black minds that we hear come out of these institutions at 12, 13-year-old and graduated from college, past this mental with this crazy IQ, who they go work for? They don't come work for Black America to start producing ideas to help us get out this reality. They start going working for these corporations. Why? Because we don't get behind our geniuses. So the goal is always to look at it's like, yes, white privilege exists, but so does black privilege exist. And the all human beings is the fact that we have a mind, and our mind is limitless. And the visionary plans with imagination and wisdom. So what world are we imagining, and how are we planning with wisdom?
Wow. I mean, I've seen what some people may call miracles happen for me. And you know, a brother listening to this program growing up in the projects may say, Key's rich, man. How the hell do I stand a chance with a white boy who parents make $300,000 a year? So he may feel like, you know, they got the advantage over him, but you know, the ability to tap into this limitless mind. And that's what I like what you talk about. It evens the playing field. And it doesn't appear that way with our minds, but you know, actually shit, that shit real, man.
Really, look, man,
that shit real. And
I'm
if
black God, but rich in knowledge itself. And knowledge itself is everything you need to produce wealth. But you have to understand that as well. If you want to produce any idea unto reality, you have to have the necessary knowledge and information to be able to execute intelligently. So if you go into the resources of your mind and you pull up a thought that conjures up, be like, oh, that'd be a great idea. What's the difference between you producing that idea and some wealthy white kid? Yes, surely he may have more resources to readily make that quantum leap and pull his energy out into the universe quicker, right? But so what? You still have the idea. So what's the difference? Now you have this access, the same access that these white motherfuckers used to have. You don't have the excuse no more because you got technology. So now the difference between their resources really was the fact that they can get the smarts, right? So now they can call up somebody and be like, how do we do this? You can, people got money, don't produce nothing. It's the smarts that allow you to do it. So are you willing to go through that necessary journey of let me do my research and development, right? Let me do risk assessment before I even get started on this plan to figure out what I don't know, what I'm going to need to know. How can I figure out how to hire somebody else? How can I bring my family together so we can start an LLC and start a business, right? How can I work for my friend that I see growing up? How can I create a skill set that I can add on to something to bring value to? Oftentimes, it's every time it's our lack of imagination, but at the same time, it's us effeminizing ourselves, believing that we can't do anything. When you are a man, and man is mind, and whatever's in a man's mind, his hand and his feet will produce. So the goal is to look at yourself and saying, what am I producing and what am I feeding myself to produce? So you don't have excuses now that we got black magic. You don't have excuses now that you have examples. Who's done it. You can go on YouTube, you can go to books. Right now, you can go to your bookstore on your phone. You got a goddamn Apple phone, and they got free books in there. But the average person like, I ain't got no money, I can't get no books, and they'll go beg.
Yeah.
They could have went on their phone and download it, or they could have went on the internet and find any downloader to go read it, because all the resources are in the knowledge.
Yo, Keys, man, that's why
we got no excuses.
That's why I named this program. I said 19 Keys speaks on the secrets that were hidden from humanity for thousands of years. What we're talking about, brothers used to have to join secret societies just to get into this type of information. And we have this tainted view of Masons where everybody that we think is a Mason is assisting the white man. And back in the day, if you just want to know this information, if you want to read this book, you had to be a part of a secret society. Right. So it's a tainted view of history. You know what I'm saying? But real quick, what I want to ask you a question real quick. But before that, family, I have almost 800 people in the building right now. It's a little late. It's about 2 a.m. on the East Coast. So I want to thank the 800 people for being in the building right now. Make sure you support Brother Rich Cash App. That is very important to support this channel and to support independent media.
Right.
I just put the link in the chat room. This is something, back in the day, what's it, Coast to Coast Radio. I used to support that, and brothers used to know about Coast to Coast. That's how I used to get my information. But we're not being funded by the Pepsis or the Coca-Colas or the Nikes or the Fubus the way other channels are, the makeup channels and the video game channels are. So if you want to support a channel that's bringing you consciousness, you may have to support it yourself. And that's the part that messes us up. We don't want to support each other. Two sisters just tried to start a beauty supply store, and they was popping, they was booming, and their business had to shut down because the Koreans would not sell to them wholesale. The Koreans said, "Oh shit, you popping? No, we're not selling to you wholesale." So us supporting our own culture is very important, because if I don't get support from you, I'm not going to get it from other places. If other places see me getting it from you, they're gonna say, "Oh shit, he gonna get it one way or the other. Fuck it." You know what I'm saying? But it starts with you, black people. So make sure you support the channel. I just seen somebody send me $5. Psych L. Shout out to Psych L. That was super fast. Before I can even finish what I'm saying, Psych L sent me $5 via Cash App. Make sure you support Rich. You know I'm banned from Super Chat. Y'all know that by now if you're an avid listener. I don't have Super Chat. I'm banned. So support Super Chat. Support Cash App. What I'm talking about with 19 Keys, vital. This brother's dropping gems. We about to drop another bomb. 19 Keys. I'm going to read you something from this book that's on my Patreon page. Keys to Inner Space. I got to get your take on it, my brother, since we're talking about the subconscious mind.
And all y'all can get my new book, Paradigm Keys, link in my bio.
Yeah. Send me that link, 19, and after this program, I'll put it in the description. Okay. And also make sure y'all support the Gold Water. Yeah. I've spoke about years ago how I use Blue Pills Gold Water, and I had an excruciating 19 Keys. I don't know if you heard this before. I had an excruciating headache. I'm in this same studio right here because I got my basement is my whole studio. So I'm in my studio with Blue Pill. And yeah, shout out to Thailand. Avant just donated 444. And I got an excuse. I'm like, Blue Pill, man, I might have to cancel this interview, bro. My head is hurting like a motherfucker. And he's like, yo, he didn't even know that the Gold Water relieves headaches. He was like, yo, people tell me it relieves headache. If you want to try it, I don't know. I was like, I'm desperate, Keys. I'm like, give me that shit. Nigga, my head is pounded. I take that shit. I've never, donations coming in. Thank you, family. I've never took something that relieved the headache that fast. Yeah. I'm talking about, I took the drops. He was like, yo, it's fast if you just I took the drops. I was like, give me this shit. I took the drops, bro. Within 10 minutes, my shit was gone. I said, nigga, what kind of voodoo is this? I said, what the fuck is this? I said, what the fuck is this, bro? Pardon my language. but it was that real. I want to convey real emotions. That's how I was feeling.
Yeah.
So when these brothers is out there with the gold water, they're not bullshitting. This shit, it's real. I'm a client, and I haven't gotten the new bottle looks super fancy. So I gotta give you the new bottle is super fancy. Yeah, there you go, super fancy. But I never, shout out to Thomas, just sent $20. Yeah, line up with that Cash App. But I never got a product ever that got like a headache in 10 minutes. That was some revolutionary shit. And when I said that, blue sales skyrocketed. blue went through the roof after that. So I'm gonna bring. I need to bring both of y'all in together, and we're gonna explode on it. We're gonna like that right there. We're gonna make sure every black person in America has at least one bottle.
Absolutely.
At least one bottle. We want repeat customers, but at least one bottle. So yeah, shout out to y'all with that tremendous service y'all doing to the black community. 19 Keys, let me read you this real quick, my brother. We're talking about the subconscious mind. You can hear me, right, brother?
Yes, sir. Grab some water.
Family, listen to this. This is from the book, Keys to Inner Space. Most of us take our subconscious mind too much for granted. One does not need to stay awake all night to beat his heart, regulate his temperature, compress his or her lungs, or grow his or her hair. All of these countless activities are carried out by the subconscious mind. When awake, this mind drives the family car, while the conscious mind is thinking about some other entirely different stuff. All day long, messages are rushing through the conscious mind, often causing it to drift into a negative state. On the other hand, the subconscious mind is friendly and plastic and can be told in a firm, kindly tone what you wish to accomplish. It cannot reason, but stored neatly away in the etheric part of the solar plexus is a record of all our past lifetimes with only the essence of lessons and experiences remaining. We need to open up our subconscious with our beneficial suggestions. Briefly visualize your objection. Speak with authority. If you think you have a poor memory, inform your subconscious in proper language that you would like to enjoy an excellent memory. In fact, you already have a good memory. Keep saying that you have. Erase negative thoughts about it. If you cut your hand, make strong affirmations. Tell the blood to stop. If an ailment presents itself, do not say, I don't have a pain here. Really, I don't. But rather, even if it hurts, give a positive suggestions. I am at this very moment enjoying excellent health. There's no contradiction. It is fact. The subconscious will pick up this message, flash it to the medulla switchboard, which in turn will communicate directly with the disorderly cells. Each one of these cells is a microscopic intelligence, and with proper command can rearrange itself. Keys, man. What the fuck? They say we got billions of cells. They're telling us each one of these cells is a microscopic intelligence and that we can speak to all of these cells. So in my conversation with Seven Bomar, Seven said, listen, the same way we look up to God, God saved this planet, our cells is looking up to us saying, nigga, 19 Keys, save this planet. That's your body. So we have a whole universe, a whole civilization, a whole galaxy that's dependent on us, just like we depend on God. Talk to me about that aspect and about us governing ourselves with our voice, our command, and with our intention, 19 Keys.
Well, if we look at it from the aspect that we are constantly receiving information from everything, all of the time. Right? Essentially, all we are is light beings. The light, transfers information back and forth. When we go down to our biological functions within quantum biology within our bodies, each particular part of our body, right, is living its own life almost, right? Your cells live their own life. Your heart lives its own life, right? Your lungs live their own life. But they all work in organization with each other, but they get signals sent from where? From our brain. But then where does our brain really get its signals in this direction from? From our environments. So the individual has the ability, but that's where quantum consciousness comes in. It's not just observing spatial reality, not just observing, right, the 3D world, but starting to look deeper and saying that first you have to believe it, right? Because the mind can only do what you believe, all right? Because subconsciously, that's where you send all of your signals to. You can consciously tell yourself to do anything, right? I could tell myself that I'm the greatest person in the world, but my subconscious won't believe it until I actually start to do great things within the world. And then subconsciously be like, wait a minute, I'm that person I always wanted to be. Right? So even if a person believes that their health is only based upon the foods that they eat, and if they work out, then they'll never be as healthy as they could be on a biological cellular level, on an atomic level. But you have to see every aspect of your body healthy and clear, right? That's the only way you can truly get to that optimal performance of health. So you have to go into the parts of yourself that subconsciously program yourself to be disagreeable with that conscious aspect of who you are. So it goes into a deeper innate structure of who you are, to where you can't just feed yourself good food. Because I've seen that aspect of what y'all talking about. I didn't watch the whole thing, but you were talking about the community that lives within each person, and the germs that live within the body.
Yeah.
And that aspect makes sense. But the question is, do the average person think that deep to go into that aspect of themselves? Because that's where it counts. Right? Because there's plenty of people that eat bad foods but still have a lot of energy. Why? Because of what their mind believes. Their mind doesn't believe the food has anything to do with it. Okay. So that makes up for them feeding themselves this bad culture of food, and that goes into their organisms. So even they have fooled the germs within their body to believe that they're doing something good for themselves, the same way Black people have been fooled to think that we're doing something good for ourselves by being obedient to the master. So the goal is to make even your cells on a biological level, right? Even on the quantum level, know the existence of the things that you should be doing that's great for yourselves. And internally, that's why a person that knows that they're supposed to eat the right food is going to have a much more detrimental effect if they eat the wrong ones than a person that doesn't know anything about it. That's probably the one aspect of where a person can say ignorance is bliss, because you can't straddle the fence. Once a person becomes aware, you become conscious, you become guilty of what you know, because now you haven't informed your body on a cellular level of what it's supposed to be doing. So now if I go eat the wrong foods, I'm going to feel a lack of energy, because I'm also going to perpetuate that, because I'm going to be thinking about how this energy is not providing no electricity to my cells and all these connections. So therefore, that's what's really going on within my body. But we can't see within our bodies. We get X-ray machines, but the inner universe is created also by our perceptions externally, right? So now we're getting fed what's happening within the darkness of our body, because inside our body is darkness. We can't see. There's no light in our body. Mm-hmm. The light that we bring to is the consciousness of electricity that we surge throughout our body to tell ourselves what's happening inside of us, right? Yes. So it's important that when you become conscious, it becomes dangerous to you as well. Because now you're studying all these metaphysics. You're giving your subconscious mind all this information. And when you go against the very information you feed yourself, right, now you start to become contradictory from what you know and what you do. But your cells might believe it before yourself did, right? Let me say that again. Your cells might believe it before yourself did, right? So now let's say your lung believe that if I'm smoking, it's bad for me. But your conscious mind, like, I don't give a damn, I'm gonna keep smoking. You cancer, right? But for some reason, your conscious mind never stopped doing it though. But your lung knew it wasn't bad for you, right? Yeah. It's the same thing with a bunch of things we do. We have our inner universe and our outer universe, and they have to be aligned. And that in alignment is so dangerous for our health, because that's why there's gonna be some people that can live for 90 years old, because they told themselves that ain't nothing wrong with what I'm doing. And the body can act off that for a very long time, even though it can start to go in decrepit states, but you can produce some of the energy that you have from the chi within your body to create the believability of your existence. So now you're living off your ignorance to perpetuate the state, because you can pull out energy from your body to give information to your cells and say, no, we can keep eating this pork, ain't nothing wrong with it, right? But now the average person won't be living as long, because we got so much information. Even your conscious mind or your subconscious mind is aware of what's wrong, right? You can't fool yourself with the ignorance no more, right? So now consciousness ain't bliss. Consciousness is guilty, right? So now you know, because your friend told you that you're supposed to eat a vegan diet. So now you can't live and fool yourself and tell your cells the wrong information. So now it's like, no, I heard what they said. I heard what we supposed to be doing. So now your inner self is producing and is listening more intentfully than your outer self. Your subconscious mind is taking in all suggestions and all information and all knowledge. So therefore, you have to make sure that you're completely aligned with who you are on the inside and who you are on the outside, because you got a supercomputer brain that's going to take valid and invalid information, feed it to your body and your conscious mind. Because it ain't just the thoughts that you get up here, it's all throughout your body that's listening. Same way when we take information and receive light, your whole entire body, all of your cells in your environment, right, receiving information, right? So when a person has a bad vibe before they even talk, your body has already received all this information. Wait a minute, this is not a good environment for me to be in. You start to feel it before your mind even had a thought. Now you have to interpret the feelings. So just to end on that point is that both of them have to live within the same existence. If I'm a yogist master or meditative thinker or preacher, you have to lead by example. You have to lead yourself, your inner self by example as well. From all of the things that you know is right, you have to do right. Otherwise, that unalignment go kill you.
19 keys, we have a huge, the movement, the positivity movement, the prosperity movement is huge right now. Everybody, pretty much everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people on the internet are talking about positivity and prosperity. And, before it wasn't like we had Esther Hicks, we had the documentary, The Secret. There was What the Bleep Do You Know? You had Les Brown. You had standout individuals who dealt with prosperity. Social media era, everybody's a prosperity teacher, everybody. What seems to be confusing to some people, because so many people are talking about it, is that some people look at this. There's something we call intuition. You was just talking about intuition. You get this vibe when you walk in the room. You got this vibe before you even walk in the room, and you know what's going on because there's this invisible you that can read invisible energy. But we have this positivity movement that says, ignore that vibe. Ignore that intuition, ignore that vibe, and be positive, 19 keys. So you get a vibe, you get an intuition feeling, walking into the room, nigga, you're supposed to be positive. And if you tell somebody, I got a vibe, they say, why you negative, 19 keys? Why you being negative? Come into this room with me, 19 keys. So we have a situation of being intuitive versus being so-called positive in this new movement. And I want to talk to you about how those two conflict with each other, my brother.
You talking about perceptive energy analysis, right? The way a person perceives your reaction to energies. So a person can be completely right, that you can meet a person. And when you talk about receiving information, that it's going to pull up to your forefront a particular feeling, right? And now you have to interpret what that feeling meant. Like, why did I just get that hair raise about this particular individual? And that invincible energy that you're talking about is infrared energy. We all give it out, but it's on the opposite side of red. So we can't see that spectrum of energy, but we can feel it. We know it's there. And there's certain energies that can make us feel more positive, right? And certain energies that can make us feel more negative, because infrared energy literally gives us energy. It makes our blood move a little more. So there's important that you don't tell the person to just ignore the signs. But then positivity at the same time is not the over-induced of serotonin within the body, right? It's not saying I'm just walking around smiling all of the time. No, positivity, you have realistic positivity as well and realistic negativity, because all things require both polarities and both spectrums. If I see a devil in the room, right, that's a child molester, there is nothing positive I'm going to have about that. There's a dark energy that should geared towards that individual so that it can release and get rid of that person from your environment, because you now just got sent information that said, wait a minute, there's some alarming happening within our environment. This individual has to go. Until you clear that alarm, then you're supposed to be interacting with that information the correct way. You're not going to say, you know what, I'm going to keep smiling and ain't nothing wrong. Oh, well, he can keep doing this thing. No. So it's realistic positivity. right? And that doesn't make a person have to be sad. You ain't got to be depressed. You ain't got to be none of those things in order for a person to be realistic about the interaction with energies within their world, right? So no, you don't tell a person to ignore the signs that their intuition is giving them based on this supercomputer that they got in their mind that's giving them valid and invalid information to feed into their prefrontal cortex and telling them to focus on this right there. They're saying that, no, there's something wrong with that person, because your mind has been absorbing information all of these years so you can make those sort of decisions and have that sort of deference. So it's like, that's why a lot of people go with their energy. Like, I just didn't like your energy. You didn't even know why. It was just something I didn't like about your energy. And then you don't never got to figure it out. But sometimes you figure out and you find out this person did this, that, and the third. It's like, you know what? I never liked that energy. Something was wrong, right? But everybody doesn't know how to interpret the energy they do. That's why somebody become observers of what? They become observers of body movements, right? So if you're an FBI analysis, you walk into the room and you learn how to read people based off their body movements, right? So you're not observing energy now. You know why the energy is moving, and you can put a definition to that energy movement. You know that if a person is doing like this in a conversation, that they might be hiding something. They putting their hands behind their back, or they scratching like this. You start to see the person's body movement represent certain energies. So another person might not want to go into that deep analysis, so they have to trust their intuition to let them know what they're observing, even though they might not know the meaning. But synchronicity is finding the meaning in the otherwise meaningless things. It is completely trusting your intuition so that you can be in tune with what the universe is telling you, because every movement is just a mathematical gesture. So now you're in tune with the mathematical universe, and it's letting you know what you're seeing and what production is happening around you in reality. So everybody should definitely trust their intuition, right? But at the same time, like I said, some people need too many details. So now they got to go find out exactly why they shouldn't be engaging in that energy. And that's why sometimes they say the devil's in the details.
Yeah. So you saying that the devil's in the details. Some people want to know too many details. It reminds me of when I was younger and in my 20s, and I started getting into the whole law of attraction thing hard. And I'm trying to, obviously I'm interested in manifesting my reality, and I want exactly what I want, when I want it, how I want it. And I'm like, yo. So I'm looking up, Esther Hicks was big out there at that time. Esther Hicks was talking about the idea, and this is an idea that I hear people talking about to this day, but I never heard somebody like her talk about it in such a way. General visualization versus specific visualization, where you want something, you want a car, and you visualize it specifically versus you visualize it generally, saying, I just want a beautiful car, versus I want a beautiful car. It's a Mercedes 300. It's black. It got red seats and it got leather steering wheel. And you're very specific about it. And she talked about the pros and cons of each. And it was amazing. And I definitely understood. She didn't agree with one nor the other, but she just wanted us to know when to use which. But could you talk to me, my brother, about because that's something, if we're all out here, obviously we're all out here to manifest something. Let's cut the bullshit out. We want a woman if we're men. Hopefully, we want to, if the sisters out there, they want a man, a husband, a king. We want money, we want a job, we want happiness, we want success, we want great health, we want prosperity. We want to manifest something, an emotion, a physical object, whatever. So the name of the game is manifestation. And this is why I said this is the most important topic that's on the internet right now. If you're listening to this, you're privileged, and you need to support the Go Water, and also you need to support the Cash App. So do that. But with that being said, 19 Keys, talk to me about what's your approach to manifestation, and what would you advise people in terms of being general versus being specific?
So the idea of being very specific is more so sensory stimuli, right? Because when you're talking about being specific, you can create the exact universe that you wanted to see. the exact reality that you wanted to see. You can create that down to the very specific. But first, you got to create a general idea of what that looked like, right? Before the vision comes in, it's a little blurry, and you add a little more detail, and you shaping it, and you shaping it, and you shaping it, and then it be like, all right, that's what I actually want to produce. Now, some people only produce their vision based on their resources, so they can only plan with their resources. So if you want to wear it tomorrow, you want to think about what's in your closet, right? And you can get as detailed as possible. But if you got all the money in the world, then your mind goes to, I can plan about whatever the hell I want to wear because I got the energy and the resources to be very specific to create that. So what's realistic a lot of times is based off what we think our external resources is. Now, as visionaries, when we say we plan with imagination, we don't give a damn what our resources are because we say that our resources are our mind. So I can plan my future. It's something that, matter of fact, the crazier the idea is, the more I want to do it. When I think about who I am right now, right? There's a point when you start to visualize and you come up with a picture of who you want to be. And you get the vision of that picture. You say, you know what? I want to be known internationally. I want to take these trips. I want to be seen as this. I want these people to call me. I want this word to be over here, that. And then all of a sudden you start to produce all of these manifestations that you had very specific. But you first have to create a general big vision. And you can specify the details within the bigger vision, right? If I say I want to be internationally known, okay, well, what do you want to be known as? Right? Okay, well, let's say I want to be known as a speaker. Okay, what do you want to talk about? Okay, well, I want to talk about manifestation. Don't say, how will you talk about it then? Right? What platforms will you use? Right? What will you talk about it? What will people say about the things that you talk about? How do you want people feel based on what you talked about? What do you want the feedback to be? You can start to specify from your general vision because that's going to create the actual production of the work that you do. So at the same time, when you talk about sensory stimuli and you're talking about getting specific, it's the reason that people create vision boards. So I always tell people like this, right?
Okay.
You know, you got to believe yourself anytime you want to produce a vision that's very specific. You have to believe that you're actually going to do the work to actually produce that vision because every vision requires energy. So let's say if you want to be with an extremely intelligent woman, how can you do that? You have to start becoming an extremely intelligent man, right? So let's say you're the type of person you don't even like reading and stuff. So how do you make yourself more intelligent? All of a sudden you start spending your money on books, on seminars, on consultations, on listening to audibles. So now your believability starts to change. Now, so your frequency starts to change. So now her frequency is on finding an intelligent man. So now y'all start to line up because y'all are literally on the same signals of energy. You notice that in your reality, there's millions of, like, I'm living in LA and there's thousands of people that I see every day, but I don't see everybody. I only see the people that's on my frequency. I used to work at Prada and there was plenty of people that I work with. I've never run into not one of those employees to this day, right? We not on the same frequency. We don't live in the same world no more, right? Our realities don't never connect, right? Ever. Because even if I was to think about one of them, they're not thinking about me. Our realities is not gonna meet, right? But there's some people that I still run into, right? From different places because we still on the same frequency, right? We're still producing the same hologram, living in the same universe. So when I want to specify a thing, I get down, when I'm visualizing, I get down deep, but I also have to feel excitement from my vision. The excitement allows you to get the necessary energy in order to produce that vision. If you're waking up in the morning and you have no excitement, what is the excitement when you have a vision? The same reason that when a child was to go to a field trip, you woke up so excited. That was the one time that you woke your parents up for school and
they ain't have to wake you up.
Because you was excited. You start thinking about all the fights you're going to do, all the things. You was excited. That vision, you was living the vision at the moment you was having it. You was so excited. So you woke up in the morning with that energy. You barely got any sleep, but for some reason you fully charged and energized because the vision produces the excitement. This is actually neuroscience when a person is getting down to it. You excited yourself between that electricity within your body. So if I want to produce my vision, first you have to see it in order to produce it. That's why people surround themselves with the visions that they want to produce. If I want to be a #1 author, all of a sudden you start picking up books and you start putting up pictures of #1 authors so you can start seeing yourself in the projections, right? If I want to consistently be
mirror neurons.
if I want to consistently be confident, I always tell people that, look, you can take a recording, right? And I want you to talk about whatever goal that you're going to produce. But I want you to talk about it in your most enthusiastic voice ever. Like, kids, you about to be the #1 speaker on the planet, blah, blah, blah. Now, the reason you go do that is because some days you're not going to be as confident as the frequency of that voice that you go listen to every day, right? So you want to be able to listen to your most excited, confident self. That's auditory stimuli, right? Now you got the pictures of where you want to be. That's visual stimuli, right? You even want to envision yourself on the day that you're receiving whatever success, how you even go smell, right? That now you can get that smell into your mind. So now you're going to continue to produce the habits in every conversation and everything that you read. Your intent is going towards producing that vision because you live it first in your mind and second in reality. But when you live it in your mind, you live it so real that it feels like deja vu by the time you produce it. And it's not even as exciting. So now you got to figure out another vision to put yourself on another journey so you can re-excite yourself. So the neurons in your mind start firing up again and tell your body what to do so that you can produce that vision. So what you do frequently becomes your frequency. So every day you have to do something that adds to the frequency of producing that vision. And every vision has a particular arithmetic and a particular amount of hertz of energy that you have to put into in order to see it brought into fruition. So I would say create the general vision, right? But be detailed, very specific. I say I want a good woman, but that's the general. Now, what's she gonna look like? You know what I mean? What are all of the rest of the details, right? I can produce. I know I'm so powerful. I sometimes like I stop myself from producing some stuff, and I say, wait a minute. You start thinking that you gonna produce. Is that what you really want to do though? Because I know if I focus all my energy, and like you said in the book, most of the time we on autopilot. We're not really thinking. Thinking takes concentrated energy, right? So those times that we really thinking is when we pulling all our energy to one singular point and we producing. But for the most part, we just on autopilot all day long. So the thinking aspect of life is one of those skilled aspects because a man thinketh and as a man is and what he becomes. So you have to ask yourself, when you get your general vision, specify it as much as you want to. You know what I mean? Because it's going to take those details in order to produce the reality that you really want to live. And nobody really lies to themselves when they really get into the specific details. Sometimes you can lie to yourself when you get into the general vision because you can say, I want money. Well, what's the details? Why you want it? What you going to do with it? So those details are harder to lie about because you have to really sit there with yourself and find purpose in the things that you're doing. And when you can align yourself with a real, true purpose, it makes it much easier for you to produce that vision that's in your head.
Indeed. I mean, I hope y'all taking notes. I see about 800 people in the chat room. Listen, it's getting late, y'all. It's 2:10 in the morning. It's getting late. 19 Keys got a flight in a couple of hours.
Okay, and it, man,
Yeah.
crowding people, man. Make sure y'all tap in.
Yo, man, 19 Keys gonna be in the UK. He's leaving to the UK in a couple of hours, 2 a.m. in the East Coast time.
This event, October 19th, man. The shifters return. Our first event with all of the shifters. Gonna be October 19th in DC. So make sure y'all fly out there, man.
October 19th, DC. Tell them how can they contact you for additional information, my brother.
Go to the IG, man. If you go to IG and you type in the number 19 _ keys should pop up, man. I got the YouTube 19 Keys. We got the book Paradigm Keys. We got the crowns link in the bio for everything. Actually, if you want to get any of those things, Gold Water link in the bio on my IG. All of that. Make sure y'all just go to crowns19.com or Goldwater. That's GOLDE water.com. And you'll be able to get everything. But for the most part, yeah, if you want to do any bookings, email the19keys@gmail.com. If you're in the UK, tap in with me, man. I'm going to have a limited amount of crowns, but I got enough for everybody.
All right. We've been on here. Let me see. I don't want to keep the people too long. I know my brother 19 Keys got to do what he got to do. It's been about 2 hours. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I got one more question for the brother.
Yes, sir.
Let me just remind y'all, make sure y'all donate. Once again, Cash App. If you appreciate this high frequency talk, I just put the link. You're not going to get this anywhere else. I guarantee you, if you download this and you listen to it over and over again, it's going to be a lot of jewels, a lot of gems dropped. Make sure, yeah. Tasha just sent $5. Thank you, Tasha. Cash App. Make sure you support the brother with his crowns, the gold water, and everything else the brother got going on. But we have to support ourselves because you know, they, as DJ Khaled say, ain't going to support us.
Absolutely.
You know. With that being said, 19 Keys, listen, my brother, magnificent talk, metaphysical talk. I definitely appreciate your time, my brother. What I want to talk to you about to close it out, my brother, is the idea of the brain. So we are a part of this mind field, this super consciousness, this etheric realm where everything's connected. There's no such thing as time and space, right? There's no such thing. So I don't get young and I don't get old because I am what I am. I am what I am all motherfucking day long. I incarnate in this realm. All of a sudden, there's this time shit going on. I'm 1 year old. Then the next thing I know, I'm 7. The next thing I know, I'm 14. Then I look up and I'm 40. Then look at I'm 16. I think I'm washed up. So there's this time thing going on. So talk to me about the idea of somebody saying, Muhammad Ali said, I knew who I was before. How does that saying go? He said, I knew who I was before I said I was. I'm messing it up. But the point I'm trying to make is that people, a lot of times, and obviously we alluded to this earlier, but I want to get into this in terms of multidimensionality, us being multidimensional beings. They feel like they're lying to themselves, 19 Keys. When you talk all this fly fancy shit, this God shit, and they look at you and your life looks like it's going good. My life looks like it's going good. They're like, Brother Rich, I mean, shit, you just, you doing the albums with Cambatta and you got 250,000 subscribers on YouTube. Keys, your Instagram is popping, whatever. Y'all niggas look like y'all doing good. But for me to say it, it seems like I'm lying. And I want them to understand their multidimensional existence, and maybe that may help them to realize that they're not lying. They are who they say they are in another dimension. They just have to realize that, yeah, in this dimension. So, Keys, can you talk to me about that dynamic? Because a lot of people feel like they're lying when they say these affirmations that we tell them to say. I am God. I am Osiris. I am the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Niggas, their conscious mind be like, nigga, get the fuck out of here, nigga. Nigga, I'm a bum, nigga. Get the fuck out of here. Their conscious mind tells them that. Talk to me, my brother.
So Ali said I was the greatest before I said I was.
Yes.
I always say, you don't find yourself, you realize who you are. If you look at the story of Mayweather, right? Whether you like Mayweather or not, you have to listen to this story and take these gems from it. For most people, I'm not trying to teach you anything. I'm just trying to remind you of who you are, right? I'm trying to remind you of the things that you already know. So Mayweather and Einstein have two things in common, right? So with Mayweather, if they won, he walked into, right, the Vegas, and he said that, look, I'm Pretty Boy Floyd. I'm going to be 50-0. I'm going to make more money than anybody in this sport, right? I'm even going to grab a guy that was in UFC. I'm going to bring him over to this sport, and I'm going to make another $100 million off of that. I'm going to change the face of sporting, and everybody's going to hate me, but I'm going to open strip clubs and have so much money and buy $18 million watches, and who cares? Now, his opponents wouldn't just take that and be like, oh, you said you was undefeated, so I'm just going to give you this W. I'm just going to throw the white flag in. Right? The promoters are not just going to throw money at it because they say, oh, well, he is the greatest of all time. He's never going to get beat. The people are not just going to buy tickets just because he said that's who he was. But every time he got in that ring, he was undefeated. And every time he got out that ring, he was undefeated. So each time either he was proving to himself or his opponent who he was. He was showing you, I'm undefeated. So the question becomes are you undefeated before or afterwards, right? Now, if you only took the projection of what you know, because he had to exert physical energy to show people who he was. And that's why I'm gonna get into this Einstein in a second. But what he did was essentially is he showed people what he believed about himself already. He had to produce and show people what was inside him, and then everybody had to interact with what he'd seen, and then they were forced to believe him. But if he never started his journey and he said, I'm undefeated in the best, nobody would believe him, because we act off the third dimension. We don't look at the potential of the human being and create realizations based on the God that they are. Now, Einstein was an individual who performed thought experiments, right? Einstein never had to actually do the work, in an essence. Einstein was an individual who was working a 9 to 5. He was working at the patent office, and he was sitting there and he was performing these thought experiments at home and when he was inside the job. Now, Einstein come up with all these thoughts. He didn't perform physical, actual experiments, but he would take the thoughts that he was thinking and he would publish them in these scientific journals to become scrutiny from the scientific community. Now, when he put his publishing of the actual theory, everybody started looking at that, and a lot of people wanted to discredit him. So they went out their way to try to discredit him, but by their works of trying to discredit him, they only actually proved his theory. Now, there's many of Black brothers and sisters and brown people and people all across the world that have very genius, powerful thoughts, but they never let the world observe who they are and what they're thinking. So unfortunately, we have to validate ourselves based on what other people observe from us, but we have to realize that we genius and we're gods before anybody else know it. We have to validate ourselves, because if Einstein never told the world anything he was thinking, would he have been a genius? Still, yes. Would the world have been able to observe and interact with his genius? No. So when a person says they're the greatest before I knew I was, yes, you already are who you are. Each individual on this planet Earth have godly potential. The thing is, are you willing to bring it out and show the world? Are you willing to make it kinetic, right? Or is it enough for you to know it? Or is it enough for you to show it? And then once you show that level, then what's the next level? Because if the universe is constantly expanding, the real reflection of the universe, then that means that we constantly expanding. It also means that we have a limitless amount of growth and graduation points that we can get to. Because they say that the universe is expanding faster at the speed of light or at the speed of light, whatever it is, that means that we can never actually reach the end. So we can never truly reach the end of our own potential. We're limitless. But this is what happens. Sometimes we call ourselves gangsters, right? Call ourselves these different things. A gangster has a ceiling. Who does a gangster pray to? They pray to God, right? So we say that I'm a gangster, I'm a street nigga, I'm a scholar, or whatever it is. Once you take on this title, then you create a ceiling, because as soon as you become a gangster, then you can't do anything outside the box of a gangster, right? So now you can't be on this smart shit. You can't be doing this, that, and the third, because that ain't gangster. So now you created your own box of existence. So when a person talks about visualization, manifestation, it's all about who you think you are is who you become, right? So there's predetermined thoughts, because when we talk about time, time surrounds us. And the past connects with the future, future connects with the past. All of them are interconnected at the same time. So an individual does not search outside themselves for themselves. You take the time to realize who you are, and then you produce that so that the world can see it and interact with your God. So I started off in Oakland, California. You know what I mean? I had multiple cases as a youth. You know what I mean? I stayed in trap houses and seen my family do crack right in front of me, and you know what I mean, been in shootouts and had to shoot at people and sold drugs and did drugs. I know crazy drugs, smoked a little weed, relax people. You know what I'm talking about? But I've been in all of the craziest situations that you can think of. I don't look like my past because I use it to reflect, not to live back there. I reflect on the future of the visions that I want to produce in my reality. And I'm never satisfied and comfortable with where I am, because I know who I can be and I know who I am. So I'm just trying to think of what part of myself I want to show the world so they can see who I am and they be forced to interact with the design of who I am. Because once I show you my genius, you got to treat me like one.
Indeed. You know, I respect your crown and what you wear, and I know a lot of other people respect it. Some people may think about the Nation of Islam, and they may think about the religion, the Muslim religion, when they see your crown. And one of the things they may think about is being humble and humility. And sometimes confidence, religious people look down on being confident. A brother like Mayweather, a brother who may talk. If you feel like you God and you feel like it kind of contradicts. It's like you feel like you God, you move and you act a certain way versus you feel like you a servant of God. So being a servant of God and being a manifestation of God is two completely different concepts, and people will act two completely different ways. So could you talk to the people who think they are servants of God versus the people who think they are manifestations of God? To close it out, 19 Keys.
In some way, both of them are both correct. It depends on how you want to serve God. You know what I mean? Some people serve their God by being their God. You know what I mean? Other people serve their God by separating the two entities so that it can have the humility effect so that they don't become overwhelmed by their own arrogance. So there's a dangerous part in the activity of believing that uh, your godliness is better than someone else's. And I think that that's where we start to serve ourselves in the wrong way, to where we think that we're better than someone else, that my frequency of God is better than you. And I was just put out the post with Dr. Wesley, and we talk about the God frequencies and the reason that you got to have a Black God protocol and you have to bow down to the manifestation and the frequency of God that is in each individual, because they have a manifestation of God that you ain't got. So you can walk around like you this, that, and the third, and that you manifested that what is within inside you. But that next man, he got something you ain't got. And you can't get that because he's a different frequency of God. And it's because he's in existence. So you can never take away from that. You can only make him feel bad about the fact that you manifested your frequency of God. But then you miss out on the opportunity to learn what he has, because that's another God. So now you're not serving God when you don't serve yourself in the aspect to where you can continuously grow. That moment you cut yourself off from growth, because you're cutting yourself off from the other gods. So now you can't take in the frequencies. Now you're stuck with just yourself and just that aspect of that manifestation. And now you're just happy and content with that, and you want to boast about your aspect of that manifestation of God that you are. But you're cutting yourself off from limitless, and now you're limited by what you think of yourself and how much you think of yourself. But I'm forgetting that each person around you, billions of people across this planet Earth, have a manifestation of God that you can learn from. So the goal is not to become so full of yourself from the manifestation of things that you've produced. It is to look around and try to figure out, how can I learn and continuously add more? Am I limitless? Or am I happy with what I've produced? Because some people haven't produced as much. If I'm an A student and there's somebody that's an F student, I want to go boast to them I get A's. So what? They probably got experience to where they're going to make millions in the rest of their life. And you're so happy that you got these good grades, you didn't even learn from what you could have got from them, from the information and the smarts and the knowledge that they've learned, from their experience, their perception. Billionaires are still reading and learning and asking individuals in consultations. They cannot get perceptions from individuals they don't talk to. I can go talk to Bill Gates, and he want to know my perception on how some shit he doing in Africa. He can only get that from me. So what will make him more valuable than me if he needs me? We live on a planet Earth to where we are in collaboration with each other's God. We use each other to continuously manifest. The internet is a resource of communication. And we're constantly collaborating, whether we know it or not, because we are being influenced by each other's ideas and the consciousness that we put out. So the goal is to not be full of yourself. It is to constantly empty your cup so you can continuously be refilled with God within yourself. So Black God Protocol is bowing down to the God in each Black man that I see, because Brother Rich, your interview style, I couldn't do it. The way you come up with the questions to pull out that inner God within people, I don't have that frequency and manifestation. But guess what? If I were to bow down to you, I could fill my cup up with what you know, right? And then there's something that I have that you don't have, then you can fill your cup up with what I got. So now we continuously filling our cup up, but we're not so full of ourselves that we can't be refilled.
Mm. Listen, man, you dropping gems, my brother. You dropping valuable gems, valuable information. Like I said, I just hope that people don't take it for granted, because it's on YouTube. This is something we got about almost 800 people in here. Listen, you better sign up to this. Do how many? Hold on. Let me do this right now. How many people got their gold water? Show them the gold water 19 keys before we close out. Who got their gold water? Because don't lie. We'll pull up your receipt on the spot. We'll pull up your receipt on the spot. Don't lie. Don't lie. And get embarrassed. And then you'll never have, who got their gold water?
Simulate yourself.
You see? I need all y'all. I just gave y'all a testimony. Listen, family, this shit ain't no joke.
Oh, yeah.
I gave you got it? Drew Hines got it. Okay. Shout out to Drew Hines. Second round. Yeah, Drew Hines said second round. Energy said get mine soon. Yeah, get yours. Listen, I've never seen something alleviate a headache as fast as gold water. Never. This is like an amazing product. So I want everybody to make sure they get it. Everybody, if there's people, everybody, the chat room started dying down. I know he's leaving, but everybody who's left in the chat room, make sure y'all get the gold water. How can they get it? 19 keys. They was asking how can they get it?
Gold water is GOLDE. So that's gold with an E. That goes down for energy or elixir or electron, if you will. So gold E water. GOLDEWATER.com.
Indeed. Make sure you support that, get that black business, and not just black business. This is when they say know thyself, this is an aspect. You are gold. We are when we hear about the Anunnaki and the mining for gold, what you think's inside of you? What the fuck what minerals, what crystals? Nigga, you a crystalline being. What you think is inside you?
What you think when they talk about them 102 minerals, gold is included. You have 0.02 milligrams of gold within your body, and increasing the gold increases the electrical conductivity within your body. So when you talk about manifesting, now you have more electricity, so you can send those signals out into the universe. And now your mind is more focused. Now you're waking up clarity. Now you're waking up clear. Now your memory is improving. Now your concentration is improving. Your hand-eye, all of these particular things. The reason that an individual like me can pull up from the neurons and the recesses of my brain to be able to speak the way I do is because my electricity.
The gold got you.
All got gold, some of us just got more of it in us. You know what I'm saying? That's the only difference.
Listen, man, get on it.
Egyptians was on, man. They was sipping.
You get on the gold. Get on the gold. I advise everybody, get on the gold. Try a bottle out. You know what I'm saying? You'll become a repeat. I'm not going to even talk about becoming a repeat customer because you will eventually.
Oh, yeah. Also, what's been great, though, with this business, it's probably been one of the fastest businesses that we've grown because people, it's one of those things that you get to experience. And we don't want customers, we want clients. Like, so when you talk about repeating, to get you there, the branding and the actual experience with it is going to be coming back. Because with this thing, a lot of people say my IQ increased. Well, gold has bioavailability and it can pass through your system. So while you're on the gold, you accumulate and have more within your system. So you have to continuously stay on the gold in order to continuously get the effects of the gold. The same way you got to continue to drink water to be hydrated. So the goal is to get all Black people on the goal. So for one, we can start visualizing, dreaming, and being focused on producing and react. So I appreciate everybody that's been supporting, and I just want to thank you for the platform and everybody else who's been supporting continuously day to day, because I hired my brother and sister for this actual business. You know what I mean? So this is a family business as well, and I partner with Blue Pill. So it's beautiful to be able to actually have a business relationship with somebody within the shifters and then be able to hire family at the same time. So this manifestation that gold has brought into my life has actually produced a couple of dreams. Not only allowed me to dream deeper.
That's what it's all about. That's definitely that's the what they say, American dream. That's what it's all about, my brother.
Right.
I definitely commend you for what you're doing. It's beautiful for the community, supplying them. If we're talking about medicine and we're talking about healing of a nation, we can't heal ourselves without gold. No matter how you may feel about it, we need gold to heal ourselves. So it is what it is. I want to thank you for coming on the platform. Any websites, anything you want to give to people for your crowns, anything, leave it for the people right now, my brother.
All right, crowns19.com, CROWNZ 19. For the most part, make sure everybody follows the YouTube and y'all follow my Instagram or the Facebook. You can find all of them at 19 Keys. That's 19_keys, man. I appreciate y'all for being on here and appreciate you for listening and appreciate your observation because you allow us to continuously manifest our reality.
Yo, Keys, let's get one question in before we... Family, make sure y'all send that Cash App in, man. Make sure y'all send the Cash App support. Oh, and Keys to Inner Space will be on Patreon. I've seen the people asking about it. By Monday, Tuesday, the latest. It'll be on Patreon. So if you're on the Patreon, you subscribe for at least $10. It's taking hours for me to do this audio version. I mean, like, there's like 15 chapters. This shit is taking me hours to put together. So make sure you sign up to Patreon. It will be available on Patreon. Give my brother 19 Keys a question. I done asked the brother so many questions. Give them a question. Yeah, thank you, Lucy, for supporting Patreon. I mean, Cash App. Give my brother a question before we get out of here. Okay, how long, Johnny Boy says, how long should one meditate a day to materialize my reality? 19 Keys, how long? Meditation versus just being in this world.
You can meditate as many times as you want to throughout your day. But I was always taught that, work is better than prayer. You know what I mean? And prayer is better than sleep. You know what I mean?
Say that again. Say that again, my brother.
Work is better than prayer, and prayer is better than sleep.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's like you have to ask yourself a lot of the times, it's not when we're doing it, but it's the off times when we're not doing something. So it's like those times that you spend with Netflix, those times you spend bullshitting and escapism, maybe those should be the times where you are replacing that with meditation, right? So it's not the times that you are meditating, it's the times that you are and what you are doing with that time, right? So a lot of us, they call it the INTG types, I believe. You're talking about those individuals who are more extroverted and they can spend time alone for their deeper thinking. So even when we talk about meditation, it doesn't have to be in the aspect of the classical sense of you're actually folding your legs and you're doing your hums and you're breathing. It could simply be spending time alone to get into your deeper thoughts and taking your phone and putting it into the other room, right? You need to be able to hear yourself in order to go into those inner recesses to be able to pull those thoughts outward. But a lot of times people need social rhythm because they don't actually want to hear themselves. They can't be by themselves. They don't like their own thoughts. So the goal is to go to that deeper aspect of self so you can hear your genius, so you can hear your godliness. Because once you hear that, that voice becomes loud and clear. It tells you what to do. So learn how to spend time alone. Take 20 minutes out the time and just sit still and see if you got control over yourself. And if you don't control you, you have to ask yourself this question: who and what controls me? And the question becomes the answer becomes your environment and your vices and your habits. So the goal is to reprogram yourself. So as much time as you need. I never knew a person that didn't meditate enough or meditated too much. You find me one person that meditates too much and they're unsuccessful because of it.
Yes.
So oftentimes, even when we're meditating, you can meditate to control yourself or you can meditate just to observe yourself. Because the one who thinks the thought is separate from the one who observes the thoughts. You are multidimensional in that aspect of who you are. So sometimes you observe yourself in the same way. If a person becomes angry, you say, wait a minute, I observe what that emotion is, but I won't allow the emotion to produce my will and my drive, right? So you observe like, oh, You become separate from the emotion. You become separate from the thought. And the observer has more control to say, I got angry in that moment. I got jealous in that moment. But I'm not going to act off that energy. So now you have the ability to control yourself in a whole different field. But you have to go to that point of your meditation sometime where I'm not just meditating from this frame of thinking. I'm imagining that there's another person inside of me that's meditating inside their head. Right? Then I imagine if I can go deeper into it, I'm imagining that inside this person, there's another person inside their head, and I'm in that one. So you get to go deeper and deeper layers. And so when you're in your waking world, you control yourself not from being in this body. You control yourself to being from a deeper layer of yourself. But that is, depending on your intention and what you want to get out of what you do and what is the reason for your meditating. But once you meditate, and you get those thoughts, this is the most important part. You got to do the work. You got to do the work because there's the magic and the luck is the work. The luckier, the harder you work, the luckier you get. You'll find it out. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
My brother, I appreciate you coming on the platform. Have a good trip to the UK. And I look forward to interviewing you again, my brother.
Yes, sir. Inshallah, it will be in person next time as in New York.
You should come to New York. I'm having a conference November 3rd. You should come out there November 3rd.
Why y'all ain't put me on the ticket, man? What's going on?
Yo, if you want, I got a lot of the ticket mapped out, but if you want, I'll give you opportunity to promote the Goldwater.
Okay. All right, let's put
if you come out to New York, you know what I'm saying, my brother, you could come up on stage and do your thing with the gold. Real quick, I'm not saying no. Obviously, I got Billy Carson. This dude is people they really want to see Billy speak and hear what he got to say. And his first time coming to New York, and the Black community don't get a chance to see him like that. So for him to come out on my platform is real huge. But yourself, my brother, if you want to, before he speaks, I'm gonna have a couple of people speaking for him. You could come on and you could talk about your Goldwater real quick, because that's very important. You know what I'm saying? I want you to do your thing with that.
Let's make it happen, brother. And that same weekend, I have a little pop-up shop around that same time to double up my efforts. So yeah, we can make it happen.
Okay. So we're gonna talk about it. So you heard what the brother said. We're going to talk about it, getting the brother up here, NY, have the Goldwater delivered personally to everybody in NY who comes out to the lecture. But besides that, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, 19 Keys, for coming on the platform. This is Brother Rich, Underground Railroad. Thanks for everybody who's a Patreon member, everybody who's also supported Cash App, and also everybody who supported everything that the Brother 19 Keys has done. I want you to rewind this program and listen to it over and over again, and it will help your life. Not hopefully, I was going to say hopefully, but it will help your life. Guarantee your family. This shit is all about energy. Everything is about energy. So listen to this over and over again. This will help, and this will lead you to other things on the internet that will help you as well. But 19 Keys, my brother, thank you, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace, God.